Okay, just want to start today's work session for March 18th, 2018.
I got rid of it all.
If we could stand and say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Jeffries.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Which way? This way?
That's better.
So our first discussion item would be special permits, restaurant conversion of suite 610 for Riverhead Center.
And if anybody needs additional copies of the reports, I have those available.
Okay, I think
This is
that's.
the IHOP thing?
No.
No, this is
The old Lane Bryant.
Lane Bryant being converted into a
Oh,
restaurant
so they
or
can put the theater in?
restaurants.
Okay, I get it.
No, not the theater, restaurant.
You got high hopes there, Jen.
Oh, no.
Don't get
No,
her singing.
two reports.
Which one is this, the Lane Bryant?
Yes,
In the Riverhead Center.
Right across from
we'll let them
where,
present, they'll explain
Krispy
everything.
Kreme was.
There's-
Yes, that's it.
I think there's one more.
Hi Pat, how are you?
Jim, do you have to
Seen you in a long
I
time.
know, how's your daughter?
Yeah, we can.
Hi,
Home
hi,
Depot.
Ted.
But not Home Depot, you know where the Chase Bank is?
Yes.
Over there. I'm with you.
Little Krispy Kreme.
Yes.
Oh, Krispy, well, not,
No,
Yeah,
it's in that, it's
right
across
across.
Nearby.
from where Krispy Kreme used to be. You're in the general area.
Yeah, well, come on, we know, those cops know they're
Yeah, we
going.
know where the Krispy Kreme was, that's for sure.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Well, I think this is Krispy Kreme, that was good. I'm glad it's not there.
okay. So there've been some changes in town board members since the last time we spoke about this project, so I'll just kind of go.
Okay,
through the whole
overview.
thing. Basically, they're looking to convert an existing vacant storefront, it's Suite 610 in the Riverhead Center from what was a retail use to a restaurant use. The restaurant use is not permitted in the Destination Retail Center, but it was determined that this is an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use, because there were restaurants in the shopping center already. It's the block of stores furthest east. It's the unit furthest west in the block of stores furthest east with the Bed Bath & Beyond and the Best Buy. So if you go on to page 2, you can see where it's actually located in the top photo. And then I have pictures of the front of the store in figure 2 and the rear of the store in figure 3 showing the existing dumpster enclosure. So on page 3, we did talk to the town board about this application before, and I just summarized some of the main points from that session. Yeah.
We've been asked if you could speak a little louder. The
Okay,
audience having a hard
sure,
time.
I'm sorry. The board didn't want a public hearing scheduled until all of the questions in the previous report were addressed. They wanted the public hearing to be held whether or not the expansion was less than 10% or not. The code requires if the expansion is 10% or greater, you have to have a public hearing. And it looks like it's more than 10% anyway, so we would have a public hearing. The board wanted to know specifically if there would be 1 or 2 restaurants, because I guess they felt the impacts would be greater if it was actually 2 restaurants, so.
I'd like to discuss that.
Sure. Yeah, you can.
How big is the space?
It's 4,000,
Huge.
4,895.
yeah, there we go.
No, two.
Yeah, it's in here. So if you want to address that
Sure,
now, that's fine.
sure. This has been this has been a long time coming. Our clients have had multiple restaurant uses, or what would be defined as restaurant uses, over the last years. It's been a couple of years since Lane Bryant left. And it really depends on the tenant coming in. We've had one tenant that would have been wonderful, and they only needed 60 seats. So that left a lot of space behind. We may have another one that comes in and says, oh, we want something bigger. So my reluctance to answer the question is not to be vague is to leave flexibility. What our thought was is if the restaurant use is allowed within those four walls, and we know that the number of seats is anywhere from, depending on its configuration, 120 to 160, then we know what kind of flexibility when we have a tenant, because we have not been able to secure a tenant without knowing the timeline when the special permit might be approved. So one comes in and he goes away. I mean, there's other alternative places, or just decides it's really not worth the wait. So in discussing how many restaurants, my request is within the four walls allowing a restaurant use. So that way, let's say we find a 41, 50-seat restaurant, it can occupy one space, and we have a smaller, by the time you put the equipment and everything in, you have a second 40-seat or 50 or whatever. So it allows within the space the flexibility. And that's really all a landlord wants to have, is flexibility to find the right tenant. Obviously, when you have even two restaurant uses, and I call it restaurant as a very generic, because we think of Lobster Shack or whatever, one of the larger facilities, there are spaces there for larger restaurants. This has to be one that fits properly within the scope of a shopping center, because it doesn't have visibility like the other ones do. So the right tenant has to come around, the right mixture of tenant has to come, and all we're asking for is the wall-to-wall flexibility. So when I say one restaurant or two, it's gotta be, it can't exceed the number of seats that that space would allow.
Would,
I have a
Would you-
problem with that.
Okay,
So, I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
So, you're saying the existing restaurants were built before the zoning prohibited them? So was this shopping center built under DRC?
it was built under B zoning in, let's see, let me look here, because I have it in my letter.
Cause it sounds like it's almost like a strip mall, like, we're gonna have a 2,500 square foot store here, a 2,500 square foot store here, and then you're gonna come back
Well,
later.
it is what it is. No, it's the existing
Well,
space.
what I was going to say is, I don't think we wanna get into a situation where we have 4 or 5
No,
tiny
no, no,
restaurants.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think if the board was amenable to not knowing if it was 1 or 2, maybe the board could limit it to 2 restaurants.
But I think it's precedent setting, cause there are other shopping centers within the DRC that are looking for the same exact thing, and I think you're gonna see other store owners coming in and saying, we wanna create smaller stores, and we wanna do restaurant uses.
Well, this was because they were existing restaurants
Right, and
in
let
the
me-
shopping center.
okay.
If there was a new shopping center in the DRC, that would be a
Right,
whole different
Right.
animal.
So let me give you the details. It was Business B prior to 2004. This whole center was developed before 2004.
Okay.
Okay, so at that time, all the pads were built out, all the infrastructure was built out, and the restaurants were actually in place.
Okay.
So that's why this
That's
is
the
quite
difference.
unique from other shopping centers that are no longer B-zoned,
Okay.
okay?
So, is the board okay with 2 restaurants?
Well, I have a question about the
Sure.
doors then.
Yes,
because
that
there's-
would be,
That, how, if you had 2 restaurants, would it remain one entrance? And separated once you get in? That would
Well,
be something
mean,
that I
think
would.
I
that's
would doubt they
design.
would do that, but they'd have to submit a site plan
Or
for,
building department,
well, I did speak to the chief building inspector
He's right there.
yesterday.
oh, good, he's here,
Because
good.
this came up, and
All right.
how would they handle the different entrances? And, he indicated that, you would need to submit how you would do it, and he would determine whether it could be a building permit or if it was,
Full-blown site plan.
right, exactly.
Right, and plus, I think fire codes and things like that would dictate egress and the number the size and
Well,
number.
you can have a vestibule and then go into two, so the facade of the building remains the same.
Right, you could.
I mean,
You
you know,
could.
and then you would get away from that strip mall type of look, because if you did put two doors there, you would get it, because what's the next smallest store in that whole complex?
Yeah, and
I
what's the
mean,
minimum?
nothing's down to a couple thousand feet in that whole complex, correct?
Well, you have the chicken place.
The smallest,
but
the
what is
smallest
pretty
place
small.
would probably maybe be, as far as narrowness of the facade, would probably be the bagel store, I would think.
But how many square feet is that one?
I'd have to look at it.
I'm just wondering, I mean, is this out of character for the other buildings, the other stores that are there, because,
No, there's a whole range of sizes within the two complexes, cause you've got them built out.
I mean,
This
that's-
is the
it's the-
facade now, so it's,
it's one of
You've
the
got
smaller
pillars.
tenants in that
No.
complex there, because you have the
well,
other,
we have large ones, but
Right,
we also
so-
have smaller ones too.
I think the chicken place is kind of
In between.
similar to
yeah.
this.
In that
and
block
then
it's
the
only
bagel
Yeah.
place is
small.
narrower.
Yes,
Right.
this, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what the square footage of the, just, of the chicken and the bagel place.
What is,
I can get that.
what is the, Karen, in Destination Retail Center, what is the minimum square footage permitted per store?
I don't have the code in front of me, but there is a provision about it can't be less than
30.
10%,
Yes,
and
like
then depending,
3,500
is what
depending
I
on the
recall.
size, you.
Right.
I believe it's somewhere around 3,500,
Yeah.
so this would be even less than that, so this is a non-conforming use,
No, this is this is,
but you're looking to break it up with two separate
Oh.
entrances, correct?
well, put it this way, it's flexibility, so if it had to
But that would
be
be-
no less than 3,500, well,
But
that
then
would
you
leave
would, that
one
would,
that's
that would,
smaller,
that
of
would be,
course.
leave one that
Yeah.
can be occupied.
Yeah, one that's
Yeah.
1,400.
Retail spaces.
What?
Pardon me?
Right, the code is minimum 10,000 square foot retail spaces, but you could build out 10% of your commercial floor area with retail spaces, no smaller than 3,500 square feet.
Right.
It doesn't talk about restaurants, because restaurants are not permitted as
Right.
well.
Right.
But the bank, which is permitted use, could be less than 3,500 square feet, so it actually wouldn't, it doesn't talk about restaurants being smaller than 3,500, restaurants don't exist.
Yeah, so I think
It just
you're
talks
asking
about-
for a
it just
double whammy by
talks
asking
generally
for
about
the
sizes.
less than 3,500 square feet and a special permit for a restaurant. I think you're asking for a lot. I would consider the restaurant in the 5,000 square foot space, or 3,500 square foot space, and then you could do retail in the 1,500 square foot space as the expansion, but what's the total square footage of the shopping center?
It's over 300,000 square
So
feet.
10% would be 3,000 square feet.
Well, I think the actual square footage is, well, this is what you had come up with, I didn't double check it.
Okay, I got it from my architect, so.
394,000 and change square feet.
4,000 square feet would be the 10%. We're asking for two at 2,500. And it's in my opinion, because I shop in the shopping center all the time, that's a really bad corner with people running across the street to try and get to the parking spaces and cars coming in from both sides turning in. And, I don't know, I just think one store would be more suitable there for public safety, as a matter of fact, also.
It's an awkward one-way because of the bank,
Yes.
because those two lanes coming out, the lanes coming out from the bank are
Right.
one-way there, right? So you have the restaurant coming in, and then you have to go, you'd have to go all the way back down the parking lot to get back out.
Yeah, that left hand.
Because that left, you
there.
can't,
There's
you
no
can't turn
Everybody
left.
knows.
I was gonna say,
Everybody's left there.
that
That's
needs a
ridiculous.
correction
There's
because-
more left-hand
Right.
turns
yeah,
than
I
right-hand
would
turns.
even
yeah.
suggest that maybe that should be revised,
Yeah, right,
because
that
it would
was-
make it
that was-
safer
that
to
was
allow.
planning.
That was,
But
because I'm there all the time too, so yes.
But coming out of the bank, when you're coming out of for the bank for the
Uh,
drive-through, that's a one-way, that lane, isn't it?
Right, yeah, what you're saying, it's one,
This is one
coming
way
in.
in, and this is where you wanna put the restaurant. So
Right.
you can only come this way, so then you have to cut across all the way over
have to
here.
go back out to go out and then come back.
And at 160 seats, you're at 80 parking spots, or no,
No,
you're at
54.
54.
And, well, we can get to the parking.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's, finish, go ahead, finish your.
So, that's,
Excuse me, 1 second, are we
Sure.
not on the generator?
What? No, I don't think so.
No? Does anybody
I
smell
do
fumes
smell
or is it
yeah, I
me?
Yeah, I
smell
do.
something.
No, I think it was a generator, yeah.
Ugh,
Okay.
that's one thing I don't miss about this building.
perfume.
Like, literally.
One of the
Well,
other
this is
things
not
the
family.
board wanted to make sure was that there's cross access to the Irwin Garston Retail Center,
Yes.
which received final approval to the east.
That's huge.
That's huge,
Right.
because that would allow, people to exit out onto Osborne Avenue.
And they've agreed to that?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Where's that at, down here?
all the way over.
It's off the picture,
Yeah.
actually.
It's behind the other bank,
Yeah. Oh, okay, over here.
MT.
Hudson,
Right here.
MFT.
Yeah,
Hudson.
wow. Wow, that'll be a big help.
It's been a
Yeah.
bone of contention with the
Yeah, we
shopping
bought it
center
over
for
Osborne
many, many
since they
years,
built it,
so
right?
that's good.
The other thing that was
So
discussed.
therefore, give us some flexibility.
We
I think
would
we're
if
giving
we
We are
you
the
this.
restaurant,
We're
we
giving
are
you-
the restaurant.
Yeah.
The other thing that was discussed was the expiration of the amortization period for the
Light.
non-compliant lighting. And that lapsed in December of last year. So now everything is supposed to be in compliance. SECRA, it's an unlisted action. The town board would need to determine if it needed to be a coordinated review. I don't really think that's necessary in this case, unless the board feels otherwise. Just to go over the other restaurants in the shopping center, there's the bagel store, the Country Rotisserie, the TGI Fridays, and the vacant Joe's Crab Shack.
Which is said to be something.
What's that?
There's gonna be something.
Joe Gab,
I
that's
have-
gonna be the,
I have it, but
I have.
Not get any application.
And believe me, on the weekend, there's no shortage of any seats there.
As far as parking goes, they're saying it can accommodate from 120 to 160 seats. If they were to have 160 seats, 54 parking spaces would be required. So that in their response letter, they did go into how much parking stalls would be required if the whole the whole shopping center was retail, which isn't really accurate because there are other uses in there that may or may not require more parking than retail, but the vast majority of the space is retail, and the big stores are retail. And there is a lot of unused parking in the shopping center, so,
Especially that section.
plus the parking ratio for retail has changed. It was one stall per 200 square feet, now it's one stall per 250 square feet, so there's a lot of extra parking. So at this point, I don't really feel that parking is an
But they
issue.
meet the parking number, or they're short for the
No,
parking?
no, we're over.
Over,
No,
over.
they're well over.
Okay,
We're 50, there's a difference of 50 per, is it 100 square feet, I guess?
Right, it went from one stall per 200 square feet for retail to one stall per 250
okay, so even with the
square feet.
restaurant in place for one,
Oh, yeah.
what is it,
Right, they got
one
Yeah,
per 30
they're well
seats?
over.
I got 4
Yeah.
times as much.
Yeah, exactly. So, if another restaurant space wanted to go in somewhere else, then I'd say maybe at that point, we could look at it more closely. But at this point, it's really excessive parking. So, I did have talk to the fire marshal, and he did go out, and he looked at the space, and he didn't see any issues. There is fire zone striping in front and rear. Other than getting your fire department permits, there's not an
Yes.
issue.
That's
Um,
the building permit process.
And the
There's-
construction is the double wall and all that between the buildings and all that, you're gonna need that with restaurants, I think.
Yeah, I'm
Depending
not
on how
familiar.
how it's configured, yeah.
So there appears to be adequate space behind the building for loading activities.
And garbage also?
They
Yep.
have a garbage dumpster.
Like a closed-in
When
dumpster.
I do get into that later a bit, because restaurants typically have, a lot of deliveries with cardboard and trash, and oftentimes they'll have a container out back for used grease from the fryers. So, especially if there's 2 restaurants, you may get into a situation where you have containers outside of the dumpster enclosure. And right now, I did drive around the shopping center, it's really quite neat.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I
Yeah.
would
What's that?
suggest, if the board feels it's necessary, is to put some sort of covenant in there that if in the future we find containers not in the dumpster enclosure, that they go to a site plan approval for an extra dumpster enclosure matching what's there now as far as materials, because they do look pretty nice. So So as far as covenants, the ones I would recommend is a cross-access agreement to the properties to the east, which we already discussed prior to getting a building permit. The one I just discussed about an additional dumpster enclosure if it was found to be inadequate at any time in the future. Also requiring the non-compliant lighting at the restaurant and the rest of the shopping center be corrected to comply prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. As far as the restaurant use, they need to put in an in-ground grease trap, which I'm sure they know. I did let the water district and the sewer district know about the maximum number of seats. So there would be key money fees and what have you.
Just as far as if, you know, there hasn't been a restaurant use as far as smells, especially, you know, how that would be contained, because if you have other retail next door, how.
That's usually a tenant obligation that they have to have proper venting, everything
Yeah, they'd
is-
have to have proper
yeah.
grease filters and
Right.
they'd have
But what
to
does it get
maintain
vented out the
that.
back, or?
the roof.
Probably out the roof
Usually,
in this
yeah.
case.
Is that,
Um,
that's roof lower than the other roofs? I can't remember how it's set up.
No,
It's all, all
I
same
believe-
height?
Same
I
height.
believe some of the stores may be higher, but I
The
think
facade is
right in that
higher in the
area, I
front, but I
think
think the
they're
building itself
about
is.
the same size.
I don't think the roof is higher, I think the facade is.
I
Yeah,
just
that
didn't know
might
if the
be.
next,
Take a look at
is
that fence
Michael's, if they're higher, or it's
Go
just a
above,
facade in
yeah.
front?
Just the facade.
As far as,
Building's straight. It's the same
residential,
all the way across.
there's no residential nearby, it's like over 900 feet away, the nearest residential, so,
Oh, they'll love it.
Is Michael's what's directly next door?
I think
think
it's
it's
like a
Petco.
mattress, it's a mattress.
Oh, that's-
There's a shoe store,
DSW.
right?
Michael's
No,
Hotel,
famous
Michael's.
brand.
DSW is a separate
Not DSW,
building.
the other
Famous
one.
brand.
Famous footwear?
Footwear, right.
And I think there's another store right before that. Yeah.
Oh, the
Right.
mattress place.
Oh, it's mattress. Yeah,
That's what I'm
Famous
saying, if you have a lot
Footwear.
of smells in a
I
mattress
know,
place,
I've been in
that's not
stores
good.
where there's a
right?
restaurant next door. and
Well,
I don't like it.
they have the chicken
West
place
side, yeah,
right there too, so
Well, not next to the mattress
Modell's-
place, that's all the way on the other
Modell's
side.
Oh, but if you go in the
No,
store
but it-
next to the chicken place, you're not
right,
smelling
you
chicken.
don't smell anything, so.
Well, that's, I know, that's because they're vented correct, that's what I'm
Right.
just wondering if.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
it would be
that
an
would be for the
obligation,
Department of Health would have
absolutely.
to
Well, yeah,
require.
it's
The health department
Right,
would
with
look
the
at
commercial.
fire.
Yes.
Do they
Marshall
also
would
look
look
at
at
the
it.
garbage as well? Does this health department look at the garbage collection and?
Well, certainly if it's overflowing or
Well,
leaking,
yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, as a mandatory condition of proper, sufficient
They
pickup.
do site, what they call a site plan.
They do that. No, do that, so.
Sorry.
They
Don't look at them.
They do occasionally stop by sites and look at
Make
dumpsters
sure everything's
and.
health and safe.
I don't know if they specifically, when
Yeah,
they,
you did it.
before you open, look at the dumpster
adequacy.
enclosure, but certainly when they do their initial, construction inspection, they would be looking for a dumpster enclosure that was satisfactory, but they're not gonna really know that until later.
Well, there's certain typical conditions they'll have to do in any event.
Right.
As far as the lighting goes, there was, non-full cutoff fixtures at the, actual location, that would have to be corrected, and then as well as the entire shopping center, as far as height and full cutoff fixtures and the Kelvin rating of the, lamps. So that would need to be corrected, whether or not they were going to get this special permit. 'Cause like I said, that provision expired December 31st of last year. So certainly if, you know, they're gonna do that, we'd want them to let us know what changes they were going to make and the specs and all of that, so we can make sure it's proper before they go ahead and do it. So that's basically it. Unless you have any questions,
If you're good with it, the next step would be scheduling for the public hearing.
Well, I think the question is what
The
it's
board
getting
wants.
scheduled for, you know, I mean,
is it one,
are
one
we,
restaurant or
Is it
two
one
restaurant or
restaurant,
two?
one restaurant and two? Also, I think that the driving lanes would need to be reconfigured if this was gonna be, a restaurant at some point, because as I said, coming out of Chase Bank there, you have no left-hand turn there, and we know that that is not the practice of people in that shopping center.
Right.
So I think it would have to be reconfigured to,
Could we do that, well, we'd wanna do that after the special permit and meet with,
well, I think that would
really
be part of, for safety reasons, I think that that would be part of what would need to be
Well,
that
we
would
could
be
certainly-
secret, yeah, that would be part of secret, yeah.
My only concern is, and I'll tell you just practically, we can't rent the space and look for a tenant unless we know an end date for the use to be allowed. And that has been the biggest obstacle. The site planning seems to me, certainly could be done with planning to rearrange, because it's really more, access and lines and things like that, relining. And because the whole place is already, the curb cuts are already there, it's really a configuration of the traffic patterns. That I would defer to our engineers with, planning.
Well, I think that would be secret then.
Well, it'd also be, now we're starting, getting into site plan issues,
Yeah.
in terms of the lighting, the access,
We kind of blow this completely.
Well, I
think-
think
but
we
I think-
definitely need to know if it's one or two restaurants so we can properly notice the hearing.
Right, so I think that, I mean, I would not be in favor of two restaurants. I think that you're going already a non-conforming use in the current business district there, in the destination retail, and then you're asking to go below, what our space requirement is. So that's my feeling on that.
I agree.
I'm gonna honestly say, I'm upset. I mean, we've had 2 fast food restaurants just coming through right now, and to think about even more, I just hate so many fast food restaurants along Route 58.
Well, certainly if you're gonna do a 160
You're
seat
talking
restaurant,
two.
that's, right, but if you're gonna do one, that would be more of a sit-down destination type of restaurant rather than
I would also think
small.
a restaurant creates a lot more traffic right there, since that is sort of a bad corner than a retail would.
Well, I think that's why you do the secret. Is it something that fits into this space? You know, you have that space there, and I know that you want to occupy it,
Right, it's been a long time.
totally understandable, but then it also has to fit in with what our zoning is in town. And that's my feeling on that, so I don't know how you feel about the two-space.
I have mixed feelings about, I want the space occupied. I don't like having unoccupied spaces. And I understand what Counselor is saying about the availability of getting a tenant in and not knowing what it's going to be. But I would prefer just one restaurant rather than going to two, because I think it does minimize the size of the two restaurants. I would prefer just to have one instead of two smaller with people coming and going. It may not double the number of people, but it will bring more people back and forth across that travel
Revenue,
portion,
yeah.
right. So I would prefer one.
I would like to have the fast food, but anyway, but
We have plenty of it.
we need them.
We
You've
need
been on
more.
58 in the summertime?
We need
But
more.
anyway,
I don't think you're gonna.
I don't think
this
this
is not
is,
gonna be
this,
fast food.
but I
No,
don't
no,
think it's a
no,
matter
I
of,
was just- I was
think it's a matter of
reacting to her
this.
I
Yeah.
mean, my example, and
Space.
you know.
I'd
you
like
have
to see- I'd like to
noodles,
see-
you
I'd
have
like to
Five
see the
Bur-
special
Five
permit.
Guys Burgers, both of those had looked into this, which are neither fast food, they're sit-down, but they're already, you go through and pick out your own burger, but you sit there.
No, I have to agree
it's a
to some
go-to.
extent. I think the,
Any restaurant.
all right, I don't want it at all.
To me, I
Oh, I'm
consider
sorry,
it
I'm
fast
just trying to talk to you, but you're
I-
all over the place.
No, I got
Yeah.
it, sorry, I'm listening,
No,
uninterrupted.
I tend to agree with the colleagues. I think restaurant use would be good. I think a special permit would probably be okay. Logistically, as far as traffic patterns, all that can be worked out, once we figure out what's going on. But I think you get a better tenant, that if you do offer 120, 140 seats, you get a better, higher-end quality tenant, whether it's Five Burgers or whether it's Lobster Roll or whatever. But I think that's needed there. And if you ever been up there on a weekend, you can't, you know.
Well, the problem is you have no place, if you go to any of the anchor tenants in
They're-
there,
they're-
you
oh,
have to.
You have to wait
they're-
45 minutes to get a table.
Well, and you have to leave the center to go get something to eat, so
Right.
doesn't that generate more traffic than to be
Right.
able to walk from one tenancy to another, or at least within this,
Oh, I think it
the
would be,
center.
I think it would be.
I don't think we're disputing that, I think,
Yeah.
I think the restaurant use, we're,
You're all in agreement?
we're all
Good.
okay with,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's the site
Make it one.
configuration.
But I think you can get a
right?
better, I think you get a better tenant if you offer
That's
more
fine.
space.
I,
I really do.
I will.
And we're happy definitely with the access easement.
Yes,
That would be very nice,
okay.
so we.
Anything we can do to move this along to, decision,
So,
we
so
appreciate
the
it.
board would like to go to notice the public hearing for one restaurant?
I would say
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
We
thank
might
you.
get some pushback from some of the restaurant owners downtown that say that you're, detracting from downtown by putting more restaurants on Route 58.
It's different though,
yeah.
Pat addresses it in her letter, but even beyond what you address about if you're shopping and you just wanna grab a quick bite to eat, you're not gonna drive all the way downtown, go sit in a restaurant in a longer experience when, but more so, the employees in these places have a place to go and grab something to eat on a half-hour lunchtime. They're certainly not gonna go downtown and use that, so I
No,
think that was
They go to the bagel
addressed
store and
well.
the chicken store now.
But
Right,
I think the
right.
master
Well-
plan has been in place since 2003, and
That's
the
by Joe's
original
Garage.
theory was that if you didn't have restaurants on 58, that people would use downtown. But I think that we've seen that that has not been the case, downtown has not thrived because there's no restaurants, and there's plenty of restaurants on 58. So, cross-marketing for downtown, in the shopping center would be very nice.
Downtown is pretty successful, I think, but,
yeah.
you know, the draw for
Downtown has
downtown
become
is
a
a whole different
destination.
draw. It's not a retail shopping draw, it's arts, it's shows, it's all, that's the draw for downtown. And that would be great.
But, some advertising kiosks in these shopping centers to promote downtown would be,
Yeah, right.
would be nice. I think that's something that we should start looking at.
Like
as
Tanger
a-
does.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that would be helpful so that people know that we're all here.
So we'll definitely take, we'll take it at that, driving lane issue.
Okay.
I think that's, as a user, I agree.
And we are starting to crack down on the lighting throughout the town.
I will remind them.
We discussed it a few
I'm
weeks
sure
ago.
they'll
No,
they'll be reminded loud and
So
clear
I
of
don't want
this.
them to think that they're not gonna go for the special permit because they have to change the lighting, because they're gonna have to do that anyway.
Yeah, they know that that's.
Yeah, it's been on the book for 10 years,
Yeah.
so that it,
No, I'm aware of, and
I think
I
all
don't
the
know if,
retailers are.
I wanna make sure that if they have contracted with somebody to do it, that they touch base with somebody at
Well,
planning or building
definitely.
departments, that we don't have a
We
change
should
that
get-
is.
We should get a letter saying exactly what they're
Yeah,
planning on
specs,
doing, and
yeah.
then specs for everything, so we could check it out
Yeah.
beforehand.
And then who decides, once it goes to a special permit, and obviously we can't make a decision until SECR has been completed, then who makes a decision as to whether or not there's enough work that has to be done within the shopping center that it would require a site plan?
That's on my notes to be discussed with Karen and Brad, and then let the applicant know that there may be a site plan required as part of this.
Just for
Okay.
traffic.
For traffic, the lighting.
Lighting.
The lighting, the cross-access easement.
Well,
I mean, if
that's
you-
already, the
Having
Well, that would be
access
the
is
person doing
already
that.
cut, I mean, there's already.
I know, but
a-
we need easements and we need them
Well,
recorded
but
with the
those are
county clerk.
documents, that usually, my understanding is, usually, you have it as a condition of your special permit, and then through the building permit process, you're not going to be able to
Issue a
get very
CFO or
far,
something
C of
until-
O, until
Right,
that
I
goes
mean,
in
we
place.
could definitely
I know, but the
require that
secret may
they-
result in that, when you're adding 160 seats to a shopping center at that location, that there might have to be some sort of traffic study or some sort of traffic circulation patterns changed within the shopping center that may require a more,
Well, once it's determined whether it's a type 1, type 2, unlisted, what it is that we're looking for, we can ask what it is that we need, we're interested in seeing as part of the process,
Yeah, because we've kind of
so.
gone a little bit off the rails in that, we asked for 2, you said no, traffic and so on and circulation, let's keep it to 1. The 1, we've already established, we have adequate parking, traffic circulation, to me is something that is more of a,
Site
I'm
plan.
not even, but I don't even think it has to go that far to a full site plan, it's really an amendment,
Well,
internal amendment,
I'd like to
or,
go out there and take another look at that,
Anybody can
Yeah.
do
and
it, so
see
anyway.
exactly what they need to do, and depending on that, we'll determine whether they'll need a.
yeah, because I think you've got cooperative, tenants, or cooperative owner. I don't, again, I think if this is occupying an already existing space with had been a Krispy Kreme across the street, so we've got site plan and everything that was done
If I
through
could make
Krispy Kreme.
an offer, two things.
Sure, please.
Be proactive.
Yes.
Go ahead and hire a traffic engineer now to take a look at the traffic circulation now, don't wait. Start talking with your client about looking at the lighting now, don't wait.
Okay.
Because we've been waiting a long time for the lighting, now's the time to, they're asking for something from us. Be nice
Okay.
if they,
All right, yeah, I don't wanna throw this into a full site plan review of the entire complex.
Right. I don't blame
Because
you.
that just to me is,
and be cognizant that we have a new lighting code on the book that's just 3,000 degree Kelvin, not 4,000 degree. The planning board would be looking for that as well.
And I think that
I
Jeff
think this
makes
is
an
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
excellent recommendation, because you can present that to the board at the public hearing, that you have an
Sure.
engineer's report on the traffic flow
yeah,
at the public hearing.
And
not a
just
problem, I will do that.
As far as the lighting goes, the shopping center is not in compliance at this point, because the lighting code went into effect as of December 31st, 2017. So regardless of this application, that you're not in compliance with the lighting.
No,
So-
I don't disagree.
You
No,
know,
no,
and
we are,
it's not one or the other. I mean, the shopping center is not. Everybody needed to come in compliance by that point. It just so happens that, you know, you're coming before us and we're presenting it to you. So,
Yeah.
but one that has nothing to do with the other as far as requiring the lighting to be in compliance.
I
Yeah,
agree,
think
no,
just
we've,
So,
The issue is this, the CO is kind of like a stick to say,
yes,
Get it
yes,
correct.
get it done by then, if not sooner, because I know that we've discussed it, I have to check with the administrators of this complex to see who they've contacted. I'm not always privy
In
to
the
all
loop,
of the
yeah.
all the administration of this. And the way you've treated the lighting compliance in other shopping centers hasn't been through a site plan process, it's been through come to the board or come to planning, I would imagine. I don't know how you've done it, I'm assuming that they've come and gotten the lighting approved and then they've just replaced the fixtures.
well, no, if
Some
they have
some
to
people have
bring
done
down
it
the
without
pole.
anything and they're not in compliance. because-
Well, let's
Well,
assume
no,
that they
that's-
did
no,
it
that-
right.
Yes.
As they come in for
Yeah.
site plan, we've been making them comply.
Right.
Okay. But if
He's
it's
not
not
generally
going
coming in
through,
unless they want
Amortization
something
period
from
is
the
up.
town.
right,
You know, I would assume that at some point the town's gonna go around and
right,
write
Knocking
it's
at doors.
well, issue violations that
Right.
get it done before a
Right.
certain
Can
time.
drop that date.
well,
Right,
the
right.
date was December 31st,
No, no, I-
2017.
Right.
I'm
So
not
that-
disputing,
that
that's
was
in
the
the
date to
code.
get it
That
done,
was in
so
the code.
that's-
No,
One
I
last
just
thing
don't-
while you're here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you update the board on what's going on with Wellbaum's, the former Wellbaum building?
Oh, there's the
Have they submitted a
yeah,
building permit with you? They have not.
have they submitted a building permit?
No.
Well, I know that they're already they have a lease, they might be preparing the plans, because, I know that it's active.
We get a lot of phone
Um,
calls about it.
They wanted to keep it, I think, until it was actually,
I know.
make a big announcement, right?
I don't know, because
No, no,
it was in the
no,
press,
no,
so
no,
that's
no,
how I
no,
found
no,
out
no,
that,
this way,
oh, they're moving along.
Just as an aside,
Yeah,
I
there's a sign
I
in
did
the
read in
window.
the paper that the
ShopRite.
Wellbounce was gonna have a pizzeria and something else,
A cafe.
Kinda like one of those.
some sort of cafe,
or like
and I
Whole
did
Foods.
speak with Brad, the chief building inspector, about, you know, what size these things could be, and he went through it with me, and they'd have to be quite small, like a certain percentage of the building.
With inside the store.
Yeah,
Right.
within the
Like what
store.
Wellboum's had when they
And
were.
Kinko has something.
Wellboum's
And
has
it's very similar to
Subway
Whole
and
Foods.
Target
Whole
has
Foods in Glencoe, or in that area, they
has
have little mini
coffee.
areas that are
Starbucks.
food.
So it would be
And
considered
CVS.
accessory to the
CVS
supermarket,
system?
Okay,
That's their pharmacy.
that's all I knew.
We're
as long as they
excited about
comply
the
with the
shopper.
size.
Yeah, it's,
I hate
Okay.
Starbucks.
You need to look at that traffic at that spot, you're right, everybody does turn right there.
Oh, I do.
No.
That's the
If
stupidest.
that sign disappears,
That's
I
the
don't think
stupidest
anybody
thing I
would
ever saw in my
notice.
life, right
I
there.
didn't want to admit it, because, hey,
But we
we're
need
Well, I think
to-
early on, it was, I
the
don't
town
really
should
had the
take a
light
look
on
at that.
58 at that point.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
And I think they wanted to
didn't
direct people throughout the rest of the plaza, but it's.
Yeah, it may be something that needs to be updated.
I think we need
So
to update that.
so with the compliance with the lighting, is it a site plan to have to come
Thank
into,
you, I
to
need to-
compliance with the
Well,
lighting?
we
I'm not
really
quite sure.
haven't,
We would have to see what the lighting plan is before we can make a determination. Are they increasing the number of poles? Is it just replacing other fixtures? What kind of fixtures are they?
So can we maybe just draft some sort of guidelines for people
Yeah, that would be
as they're coming in
helpful.
with new developments? what the process is.
We will.
I
Well,
know
new
there could be a
development, we
not
already
a new,
have that
not new
covered,
development, but some,
retrofitting maybe.
yes,
we could
retrofitting
do
or
that.
having to change them, just, you know, a brief guideline, just so that we know kind of, and the board knows also, and
If they could
the
have that for
planning
the
board
public
has
hearing,
an
that would be
idea.
I am
phenomenal.
gonna work on them, but I'm, just noticed the photograph here of the site. There are gooseneck lighting fixtures. It looks like when the lighting was put in, it was put in with more,
Downward.
nicer downward lighting fixtures.
There is definitely,
Wall packs.
there is definitely, non-full cutoff fixtures in certain
I
areas.
don't know
There-
what cutoff, I'm sorry.
Cutoff means that the shroud covers the bulb.
Oh, they're, okay, so that they're,
Wall
So,
packs where you see the bulb extending out, projecting outward.
and there are definitely fixtures that are greater than 16 feet in height,
right,
so.
but
Yep.
would you, I guess that's the question.
Everything has
think
to be
that's
in
the
compliance with the
question.
current code, the height.
Even heights?
Even height.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that may increase the number of poles, so before we say whether it needs site plan is what is needed on that site to make it comply. It may be just switching out.
When I go back out there,
There
I'm
seems
gonna
to be
take
an
a
awful
look
lot
at.
of lighting.
If it's simply just switching out the fixture,
Right.
more than likely not, but if you have to like double the number of poles because you're decreasing the height, then perhaps you do. So it depends on, I hate to say it, a case by case basis, depending on what is needed or to comply with the code.
Okay. That's why having a
Right.
lighting engineer would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I will
Before we
get
answer
that.
the question, we want to see what the plan is.
Yeah, I
Okay.
understand. Okay, so there's no real, like, black and white, it's more of a customized,
Well,
Well,
the code is black and white, so.
Well, yeah,
but-
you have to be in
but- so,
compliance,
right, so
but
to be,
doesn't tell you
well, part of the issue, and this is what Jeff is saying, to be in
Right.
compliance, you need to have a certain amount of illumination
yes.
on the area. And when you bring down, the way the poles are situated now, if you bring down the height of the
Yeah,
poles,
shortens that.
right, so that may be an increase in poles, and that would then have an effect on whether it's a site plan or just, you know, a retrofitting of the poles. So I guess that's kind of the issue, whether it's just a retrofit or whether it's a new configuration of the location of the poles to cover the area.
One thing that's good is because they have so, an abundance of parking, they would have space to put in
Pole, more poles.
But they
Okay.
have to trench to connect the electric and.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
you're talking
expensive.
millions of dollars, that's right,
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Expensive.
But that's why I was telling you, they're gonna have to do it regardless, so it's not
Right.
predicated on the special permit.
Yes, I understand that, yes, it's not triggered to us, it's universal, I
Yeah.
did
Right.
understand that, yes, I do understand.
Alrighty.
Like it or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
for
much.
your time,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Jeffrey.
And now we'll do, engineering the replacement vehicle for Drew and Ernesto.
Did we talk about this already?
What was that?
Did we talk about this already, or was it just through email?
This is,
It might have been through email.
this is an explanation because the board had asked them to go out and try and find something, cheaper.
Oh.
It's a response to questions.
I think you asked them.
Not me. Need a truck, go get a truck, they only last 40 years. Do about 5,000 miles a year.
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 It's still morning, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice haircut.
It was like the week of haircuts. I think everybody got haircuts
Yes.
this week. All right, so we had asked you to come back. You had asked about about the replacement vehicle, and then you were asked a couple questions about the replacement vehicle, and then you were going to come back and present.
Right. So I spoke with the chief about Cope vehicles. They'll be replacing one that has 177,000 miles on it.
That's
And
perfect.
Yeah, and then one that has 125,000 miles on it. So I think at best, that's gonna be a Band-Aid if we use that as a replacement for the one that's out of service.
I had asked Sean to put quite a bit of money into the police department budget for new cars, and I think there's $275,000 in that
75
budget for
allocated
police
for
cars. So, and I'm sure that there might be other cars that are decent that could be changed out at this time that might have lower mileage on them. I don't know, I thought you
I-
guys had it in your budget for this.
We do.
They
Oh,
do,
okay.
but
So-
the question they were asked is, could they find a car from one of the other departments?
Yep.
That they could switch, so that's what they did, and they're saying that
And
is
those
not,
are the only
mileage
two
is
that the
too
chief's
the mileage
getting
is too high, so it's just a, you
rid of.
know,
Those are the only two that the chief's getting
response
rid
to
of.
the question.
Correct.
Okay.
The one you're replacing, you've had for how many years? Or it's been a rollover forever, probably?
We've had it for at least 10 years.
And it was
And we
probably
got-
used when you got it.
We got it from the police department.
So is it safe to say if you got a new vehicle now, it probably lasts a couple decades, probably?
How many miles a year do you guys put on a vehicle?
What are we talking about? Go get a vehicle.
Between 5 and 10 probably.
Yeah, it's not a ton of mileage,
No.
so.
Some
Something
of
would
it's-
last you for a long time.
Some of it's rough, like when we go out to
Yeah.
Cal, but for the most
Oh,
part, it's
go
fine.
get it. Stop messing around.
So we're all, and do you wanna explain, just, you have it in your budget to do
Sure.
with B and G?
Sure.
State bid, I'm sure.
So it's $32,000, and we're taking 18,000 out of, B&G, maintenance line, and we're taking $14,000 out of consulting.
In B and G.
Consulting is
Engineering,
engineering,
okay.
yeah.
So 18 from B and G Consulting, maintenance.
And 14 from consulting.
Okay, and everything as far as what B and G needs, as far as what needs to be maintained or replaced or repaired, well, that's covered?
It's gonna be a dual truck, they're gonna put, right now we have, Tahoes, so we won't have that. But they're gonna put work boxes in it so that we can use it and they can use it if they need another truck. They're also gonna get a plow, and that truck and plow will be used during snow events.
Great.
Good. I like that you're doing a multi-use on it.
You should have your own vehicle.
So everybody's okay going
I'm
forward
good.
with this?
Yep.
Yes.
Think they need this? Okay. All right, and so we'll move on to the next, the Water District, Administration roof, building roof update.
Oh, I saw this come in. too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I pass these down now?
Yeah.
How many trees you kill to do this?
Quite a bit.
They just use the felled trees on the side.
So the first packet is sort of an explanation exactly to close out the job, and then the second one, I was asked to explain why
John, just, I think,
the costs, to justify the costs. So we closed out the water district roof, we're trying to close out the water district roof project. We replaced the roof, we went out to bid. Lowest bidder came in, gave us a proposal based on quantities that we provided, that we saw fit at the time of bidding. But the roof on there was over 40 years old, in terrible condition. So it required a little bit more material than we had estimated for. That's the reason why we used line items to go out to bid for, so that if we did have to increase them in any way, we have a price for it, we don't need to keep going back to the contractor. So the additional change order number 2 is to finalize the quantities that were actually installed.
so that's that 15,352.
Yep.
Wow.
Good lord.
52,000 and 92,000.
Well, the first one was the 2,300 for the asbestos, that they didn't know they were going to find. 23,000, sorry. 23,000 was for the asbestos, and that came through, and then the
Oh, I know.
15,000 was the other
But
one.
when we originally ventured into this, the original cost was 52,000, and then these other things came about. So I'm just saying, we're going from 52,000 to 91,000. That's
Correct.
all.
Yep,
Yeah, we can't avoid the asbestos removal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting to
Yeah.
find that, but
So it's over 40.
so now, does this get warranted?
yeah, it has at least a 25 or 30-year warranty on the roof.
25, 30 years,
Yeah.
okay. Any questions on this, or are we good?
I'm good with
Is
that.
Good lord.
Is there any mechanicals going on the roof?
Nope.
It's all on the side?
Yeah.
Well, you know what, they're not cheap.
Nope.
I just had the roof done on my house, so I know.
All right, so I guess we're good on this. I think you guys are still up here. We have the status of the parks. For the 2018 season, we have Ray Coyne, Judy Dahl, and I think you guys are gonna know
Thank you, guys.
You
On
will,
this, I
okay.
want an orange truck, an
Okay.
orange or yellow truck, I don't
You
know.
guys are staying up here, right?
Like white.
Blue is.
this. Thank you.
I am at.
Alright, blue's okay.
Blue's for water.
No orange, no orange. Navy blue. I have one at home like that.
Status of parks for 2018 season. Golf Point, Dillingham, Rossini.
The beaches really took a beating.
Oh, they do every year.
I don't know, I've never seen the last couple storms.
That's your-
Here comes Tech Man John.
What's going on here? What's taking so long? Good, how are you doing?
It's nice to see the Ray brings the people that actually do work in the recreation department.
Do that once in a while.
Good, how are you?
I'm their puppet.
Hi.
Some interesting shirt.
Ray, I'm just gonna have you introduce everybody because we're on camera.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Adulty.
I'll go like this.
Don't hand those out until you're done with it.
That's it, that's all right.
No, I want you to have this, so you know what. We do. I think Ashley has it. Did she give that to you?
Looks like she's still, she's getting there.
Hi, Patrick. How you doing? She's on time. First time seeing you today.
You're getting to the public?
Yeah. Thank you.
Rebid this, get the asbestos removed.
I think the job was already started.
Is it?
I think the job was already started when they found the asbestos.
That's crazy. Might be able to get another company to come in for less.
I think it was the addition of another building. The addition of the back building.
You look at it, going to the art school, she's so proud of school now. That's good. I forget. Music, golf team, that's good.
This is 2000, this is for 2018?
Yeah, we just updated it. I mean, we haven't done too much since.
What I heard.
Well, you can go along with that.
Oh, John, you've been kicked out of the tech area? Someone younger?
If that's the case, then that's great.
Now that you hit 30?
Does Drew have one of these? I do not. Okay, here we go.
Sure.
I had to, start and stop like the different slides in the video,
Or actually, worst case, if you can mix the video, it's not gonna work.
Ray, I'm just gonna have you go around and introduce everybody just because we're
Ready? Oh, you-
filming, so everybody knows, who everybody is.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I have here with me Ashley Shandell and Jordan Harden. They both run the parks for us. They started last year with a big challenge because Jim Janasek retired in the middle of the season. And so they were thrown into the wolves to help with the parks, which is the busy season. They did a wonderful job. Now they have a whole year behind them, so now they're continuing to assist, and that's what we have this. We have the lovely Judy Dahl here from the Senior Rec Department, and Drew Dillingham from Engineering, the main man. So when he's ready. So basically what I'm gonna do is, I've given you the Parks Improvement Report. We updated what we have done so far, and that's outlined in blue.
The dark blue,
The
that's,
dark blue with the white writing, that has been fixed or added. The rest of it, the ones outlined in red, we feel is a priority. And hasn't changed in the last couple of years. And so what we want to do is, as I do every few years, I just like to give you an update. I want you to see what we see. In this particular case, after we're done with this presentation, we have some, we feel some solutions that could help out. Everything's ready to go.
Do you want us, feel like it might work, or you want to just do it on a paper copy?
We could just do the slides if you want to.
I don't, he's just telling me to log into my account.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to log into your account outside of
I
the
think
room.
this will be this one, right?
As we go along, any questions, just come out with it as we go to each park. Just to let everybody know too, we break the parks down in like a tier system based on volume. So Veterans Park out in Calverton and Stotsky Park are what we call top tier parks, because they bring in the most people. The second tier park, which is Bayberry, which is your neighborhood park, but it's larger than your typical neighborhood park. And we have the bike path in tier 2 as well. Two Bears Park, and then we go to the beaches, and then tier 3 is all the.
Two Bears is considered like a tier 2 park?
Yeah, now they are, yeah. They have enough in there for like a tier 2. And then we have the beaches.
And then South Jamesport is what? East Creek, what is South Jamesport?
Yeah, you know, I just call them beaches, but they could fall under tier 2 as well because of their volume.
South Jamesport is tier 2?
Yeah.
So Bayberry, Epcal Trail, Two Bears, and South Jamesport, you're saying tier 2?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then you have Horton, Millbrook, you have the beaches, you have the community centers, and then the rest of them are just small pocket parks.
Okay, so from where, what is Horton Avenue, Wading River Beach? This is, you're just, Horton Avenue is beach?
No,
Little
Horton
Gables?
Avenue is, it's a basic pocket park. It's just
So
got
then
basketball
that
court,
goes in
playground.
this grouping over here with the pocket parks, not over
Yeah,
there?
yeah, some of this is not in order because we reshuffled it.
So that's a-
But the system is just my creative system. It's just so how we look at things.
I know, but I'd like to talk about them similar year after year, so we're
Sure.
all
No,
on the
no,
same
no,
page.
I just wanna make it work for you guys.
So
too.
Horton Avenue and Millbrook are part of the pocket parks?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the HP, the Henry Pfeiffer Community
Yeah,
Center, what is
we-
that?
We just slated under community centers. We don't put that under a tier because it's
So is
not a
that the
park.
same as South Jamesport?
Community,
No.
no, South Jamesport
George Young.
is George Young, GYCC
That's a
would
community
be
center.
community center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay, South Jamesport is actually the beach?
correct.
Okay. So that's,
Go, it's the beach, the boat ramp, things like that.
so is that, are you considering them in a tier, or are you considering them separate as beach categories?
I put them in beach categories,
All right, so South Jamesport is not a tier 2, it's a beach.
correct.
Two Bears is a tier 2.
Yes, Two Bears
Okay,
is.
Epcal is a tier 2.
EPCAL? No, EPCAL's tier 1.
Yeah, that's.
So Epcal now is tier 1.
Yeah, Veterans Park.
Tier
is
one,
tier
tier 1, we have Veterans Park,
Correct,
we
that's
have
EPCAL.
Stosky, and we have Epcal as tier 1.
Yes,
Okay.
so Bayberry within the.
And now
tier
Bayberry is tier 2 or tier 1?
two. Bayberry would go into the tier 2.
Okay, so we have Bayberry is tier 2 and Two Bears is tier 2. They're the only tier 2s.
And the walking path. The walking path would be considered tier 2.
Okay, so, but you have bike, walking path, Epcal. And
Yeah,
do-
that's-
And do you have Epcal somewhere else?
No, basically I just explaining because when we first did this, it really wasn't up yet. So it's the walking path at EPCAL.
Okay, so this bike walking path at Epcal is a tier 2.
Correct.
And then where do you have Epcal Park?
That's Veterans Park. So Veterans.
Okay,
Veterans Park,
gotcha,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Confusing you with the name.
Yeah,
I'm curious as to why you broke out the walking trail from Veterans Memorial Park, because it's all same as the same park. And so when people go to the ball fields, they go for a walk on the walking trail. When they go, you know, to the dog park, they go on the walking trail.
I just kind of separated it based on the fact that it is just, it's not with the ball fields and everything else. It's kind of its own little separate entity. I mean, I could put it in there. It's not a big deal. Again, this is how we
Really,
assess
this
it.
is just for his,
No,
his
Well,
It's how we evaluate the park.
working operations. It really doesn't mean
Well,
much to
I
me.
get it.
it will when it comes to budget time.
Exactly.
Because you gotta break it out towards budget time priorities, so if you're doing a beach priority, which are you doing, then you do it on priority for the beaches. You have your pocket park priorities, you have your tier 1 park priorities, your tier 2 park priorities. If you have a limited amount you can spend, where are you spending it in
Your
those
priority
categories?
is just gonna be based on the need for what has to be done. So like I say, it's not, it doesn't matter to me whether it's a pocket park or a phase one. The work has to be done, the work has to be done.
But I guess the point is when, that if you're gonna do, if you have X amount of dollars, you know, and
You wanna
we have to make a
prioritize something.
decision, the tiers are based on the number of people that are supposed to go there, that was the original thing. So are you gonna spend more money at a park that more people frequent, or are you going to spend it at someone that's not a park that's not as frequented? You know, not that you wouldn't neglect the upkeep of it, but
Well,
for
that's
the
what I'm saying.
improvements.
If you have jagged metal at a pocket park,
Not
that's gonna
maintenance
be a priority. It
improvements,
doesn't
but not
matter.
maintenance,
voters
not
either.
maintenance
Right.
improvements.
Right, but, and I agree with Laura in saying that the trail being part of the Veterans Memorial Park, if you're basing it on the income that Veterans Memorial Park is producing, and with the runs that we have, and the 5Ks that we're gonna have, and with the ball field rentals, and with, you know, picnic tables and barbecue rentals, that all that money that we take in from that one big park, which is Veterans Memorial Park, which the trail is a part of, should be included in any budgetary items addressing this, and it shouldn't be considered the walking trail as tier 2, it should be considered part of the park.
I disagree.
All right, just really, it's honestly, just at the end of the day, it was a system I taught the parks crew just to evaluate the park.
I won't belabor
That's
it,
basically
but
what
I
it
think
comes down to.
the trail should
I
be
understand what you're saying.
separated from the
Could
park.
you all it is a matter of just
Right.
cut and pasting on this, so everything that's grouped together should be grouped
If
together.
that's important, I will definitely fix that.
Okay.
But this, to me, it was just a guide for you guys for the slideshow.
So with all this grant money we're getting in for the path, we could probably use in the park then, it's all the same thing.
We are using it for several parts of the, you know,
That's good.
of the trail, absolutely. We're using it for Grumman Memorial Park, for the plaque that goes on the big rock that's going there,
The
we're
big
using
rock.
it. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
so,
Okay, Ashley, you know
Good.
what, I'm sure. Now that you're up and running.
The big rock.
So, just out of curiosity, what you're showing us on there, does it coordinate at all with this?
Yeah, for the most part, we did like our bigger parks and the ones that need like a lot of attention towards them. And then I broke it down, like the first one that we'll have will be Veterans Park and Stotsky and Bayberry, our bigger parks, and pretty much broken down like that. Then I just go into beaches and pocket parks and boat launch sites, smaller
Okay.
areas. Really just for you guys to see an overall of what the parks look like and after bad weather, what happens and why we might need extra materials to fix a lot of stuff that happens to it. And how it does take a lot of time and materials and maintenance to keep up with them. So,
Okay.
as we go through, if you have questions as to where something is or what it is exactly, some of them are actually hard to tell what it is. Alright.
So we based this report off of the inspections, which we do monthly in the winter with 2 large inspections at the end of the year and at the beginning of the year. And then in the summer, we do each week for maintenance, each park gets inspected. But we also add large complaint items that we get during the summer, we add that to the list as well, from the public.
So feel free to stop me or keep going.
I'd like,
whatever you
yeah,
want.
I'm not gonna stop you, because you ain't started yet.
Alright, so we'll start at Veterans Memorial Park, and this, as you can see, is the softball and baseball fields that are there. This is just showing the constant, whenever it rains, that there's tons of flooding, and it's a constant upkeep of materials when we have tournaments or leagues or games out there, that we have to constantly send extra crews out there to maintain them.
And just out of curiosity, is that because of the pitch of it, or is that just of the amount of rain?
Well, let me explain that. What happened when they built this park, Land Tech, they, basically what you want in a good infield is 50-50 clay and sand. They put in the majority of a sand mix in there, which we didn't realize till months down the road, versus the clay. So we get a lot of rocks that come up, especially the first year. We've done our best to eliminate the rocks. And then you get situations like this, the mud, because of a lot of sand. So in order to fix the problem, we would need to add a lot more clay to these infields to balance them out.
Was that the request that was in the proposal, sand versus clay, or we didn't address that?
No, we addressed it in the proposal.
But they didn't, but we're
They'll
finding,
tell you they did. You know, it's hard to.
can we sample it, or are we still, I mean, can we go back to them?
No, it's been years, you know, and then we've played over it. This is 5 years in the making now.
No, I know, but if they didn't put down what they were supposed to put down in the first place, and we have it written, could you check that?
If you did a
Yeah.
core sample, you could figure
Yeah,
out what
Well,
the,
the way, I'll have to show it to you, the way it's broken down in the proposal.
You can always say that we've changed it the last 5 years too.
Right, and
Yeah.
you've added more sand to it yourself, or.
Yeah,
Well,
and
we
they,
do add a constant amount of materials to the top to get rid of the water.
Well, wouldn't sand provide better drainage than clay, and clay is what
Yes.
really muddies up? I'm a little confused here.
yeah, the way, the clay is, if they work together, that's where it drains through the sand, and the clay keeps it, it's hard to explain.
Compacted.
Yeah, impacted, that's a better way to look at it. So to have the right mix, and a good example is Stotsky Park. We actually had Stotsky Park redone about 6-7 years ago with the same more clay, less sand, even though it was a 50-50 mix, and they're great, they drain really, really well.
Who
So,
redid that?
Buildings and Grounds did it. They did a wonderful job with it, but it was a lot of cost of material, and we had the money at the time.
Okay, slide.
Okay.
Just continuous extra stuff that we would like to put in some more effort towards the fields.
So what are you proposing as a solution there, or are you just maintenance and upkeep after foul weather?
Well, we would like to see the infields redone. We do hold a lot of high events there, including our Little League, we hold tournaments there. So we would like to get it to where it's in great condition. We have a great reputation for Stotsky Park.
But we're on
the way it looks.
we're on veterans here though, right? So for
I'm
vets,
just saying the town's reputation for fields is very good with Stotsky Park, but we have a challenge with veterans, so we would like to bring in the material to fix the infield.
and what is that just like sort of a reboot of what you got there, or are you looking, dig the whole thing down and redo?
Drew, that would be more of a question for you.
Because I see that it's been on, here since 2015, and we're 2018, and what's been done, or is it being done slowly? What's going on?
As far as,
What's been done, we just keep turning over the infield. We need a lot of
Yeah,
money
there's
to
no-
put the clay in there, so we just didn't have the
no
money, so
permanent
we do our
solution to
best.
those.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, it's just a maintenance thing
right
that
now, it's
constantly
just
gets done?
Band-Aid, right. Now, when building, how long ago did building and grounds?
Stotsky? 7, 8 years ago, I wanna say, it was towards, maybe my 3rd, 4th year here, and we had money in park and rec fees, and
Okay,
they did a wonderful job
I
with it.
think that was probably
It was
my
before
time.
you, yeah.
What did they do, or how did they do it?
They every infield, they dug up and put more clay in it, just redid the whole thing.
filled it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it cost us a good amount of money, at least it probably has that,
And how far they have to go down to do that?
You'd have to disc it all in.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
saying,
6,
rip it
7.
and disc it.
Yeah.
Now what they do is every season they resurface it.
And that's working or not working over at
No,
Veterans?
it's still, they resurface it, but when it rains, it ends up looking like that again.
You mean they're
So what's the cost of,
resurfacing
what,
veterans?
I guess what's the cost of resurfacing every year?
Well, resurfacing itself, I didn't have that broken down as far as the cost. We didn't wanna put cost into all this, we wanted to just introduce what is wrong with the parks. We have all the costs broken down, what it would cost to fix it, but we felt in this particular presentation, we just wanted to educate you on it, and then if you had further questions, we can provide a report for you.
Okay, so my question is, well, how much does it cost to resurface every year? If we've been resurfacing for 5 years, and what's the overall cost to, what is it, disc
Dig it
and,
down.
dig it down and
Yeah,
do
We
it?
can get that for you.
Because if we're doing this for 10 years and it's the
Might be
same
equal.
cost,
Ray, would you want us to do it again, or would you,
I would have I think you guys did a wonderful job with it, so yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple, it's just a matter of finding the time to do it.
So
Okay.
you're saying you don't need to resurface the Stotsky, because you did the.
Stotsky's in great shape, yeah. I mean, we still have to turn it over and
the
Jordan.
normal
will
maintenance,
affect
the
that,
normal
yeah.
maintenance
Yes,
on it,
it's just
correct?
the normal maintenance. and
Okay.
It works out well
Stotsky
at
Park
Stotsky.
is the talk of the county.
Yeah, it works well at Stotsky.
Okay, very good.
So these are just surrounding, and just, again, how he mentioned, just educating on what the park looks like in general, how we'd like to develop it further. It's just surrounding areas of the ball fields, a lot of grassland and gravel type of area. This is our current multi-purpose field that's out at Calverton, where we don't have irrigation available out there, and that's what the walking path kind of starts around there. And it's just grass and dirt and uneven playing fields.
Does that get used that much?
Well, we actually try not to, like, say, you you guys should use this. We have it out there, people can use it and allow for people to use it, but it does have divots and ditches that we don't say, yeah, go rent that
It's not great.
field.
It's not quite the
because-
best.
It's uneven, if
it's not
somebody
the
gets hurt there,
Right.
we're getting sued.
That's,
no, it's
that's
not
what I
the
was,
safest.
that's
We
what I was,
recommended not putting it up at the time.
okay.
So we do have a lot of requests to use it or rent it, and
Yeah,
from
there are
youth and
people out
adults
for that
and
development anyway.
all over that,
Right,
having
there's
multiple
an
fields
actual
out there
plan
would be
for developing this.
Yes.
There is a plan, and I wanted to, are we talking about a different plan here, or the?
No, the plan, no, you're talking about the all-purpose.
Yeah, I mean,
But I know
just
there is
to,
already-
I mean, Laura,
there
I'm
is
not
already-
sure, and Catherine, if, the whole build-out of this plan, we had to stop it due to monetary reasons when we built it. But that park is supposed to include, obviously, lights, and 2 synthetic turf fields. We were in the center area where the dog park is, it's supposed to be tennis courts, a large playground, we put the small playground in, but a larger playground, a basketball court, we want to add pickleball court, a very large picnic area, bathrooms are needed for the facility, we use porta potties right now. Not only the lights, we don't have lights on the ball field itself, we need lights in the parking lot, and the rest of the park, it gets really dark. So the total build-out has not been completed yet. And the dog park needs a large, it needs water, that's a huge complaint item.
we'll see that on the next.
So I'm just gonna say, cause you have phase 1, phase 3 through 5, obviously, the money has hampered much of this. So can this be reworked so that the things to start are the lower priced items? And work into, instead of starting with the lights and then not doing anything, start with the lower price items and work our way towards the more expensive items as a plan to actually kind of move some of this stuff forward, if that's what we're still interested in doing?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
So, the $80,000 that we got from Riverhead Move the Animal Shelter, what is that money to be used for?
That money, I believe, is to go to the North Fork, our animal shelter, to move it from Youngs Avenue over to the Henry Pfeiffer Center and go towards the, build-out of that.
Okay, so that was
It actually
specifically for
says that in the
so
contract.
Yes.
Yeah,
we should
that's
just
it.
finish,
Yeah.
so that it's specifically for that.
Correct.
So we couldn't use any of that money for water for the dog parks?
No, we could go back and ask them to do that, but then they would be rescinding on what they did. I don't know what
Yeah,
their,
no,
what they've talked to the shelter about moving over there. I think they're in agreement, there's a contract to that, would be amending the contract to do something else.
Yeah, 'cause I spoke
That's a
to Denise
discussion for
Lucas about it.
Denise and for her to go back and talk to them. If she donated the money specifically for that, that's what we received the money
Right.
for. If she wanted to change it, then that would be her doing it with them and then coming back to us.
Yeah, because I had a conversation with her on Saturday, and she said, the check is sitting there, someone needs to pick it up, and I don't care what you use the money for, but it's,
Well, that's a
$80,000.
conversation, between Denise and them.
Okay.
Just to the board as well, we invited Rick Bowden here, he's in charge of the PAL. So he has the same challenges that we do, so we wanted him to see the presentation as well.
No more thought.
So continuing on Veterans Park, we have bocce court there right now that needs constant maintenance, a previous plan for a volleyball site, that we would like to continue with, and couple pictures of what the dog park is, which is mostly just dirt and few tables.
So just a curiosity, yearly maintenance, do you break it out by park? How do you break out the maintenance for each one of the parks each year?
We have one large account for all the parks, but we have one separate account for veterans. Because we take the revenue we bring in for veterans and we put it towards park attendance and whatever expenses that we can do.
Can you break it out, maintenance for each park? Or is that,
Would be a challenge.
for the
We can
larger
work
parks, for
with-
tier 1, tier 2, and beaches,
we
and
can
then
figure it
pocket you
out,
could do
because
all
we
together?
do line items for how much we spend, and we can figure it out, even though most of the supplies go for all the parks, we can tailor it away, hey, listen, this is the percentages goes to Stotsky, this percentage goes to Bayberry, we can do something like that.
Okay.
So, going on to Stotsky Park.
Hey, page 4.
Getting there.
So this is again, just general maintenance, repaving of parking lots, of the areas around the park that get constantly used. And I'll kinda just, so you can briefly see what's there. Pathways in the picnic areas, where we'd like to add another playground over in Stotsky Park if possible, 'cause one there gets used a lot, but the park is very large.
And the repaving, this is done by B&G?
Okay, so what I have for Stotsky Park is, Columbus Avenue parking lot. It would be a total, well, mill it down and then pave over it. Needs concrete curbing, needs headers, line striping.
Which parking lot is this, the
It's
existing?
horrendous, the one.
The one by the soccer, the
Columbus
soccer
Avenue
field.
parking lot.
The upper lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good
Back in
news. That's a huge complaint item for us, and that
No,
road.
we're just saying what the issues are.
Oh, I thought he had something for that, I'm sorry.
Hang on, hang on.
No, well, this has actually been on the agenda for us for 6 or 7 years we presented this. So it's been around. And then, of course, Columbus Avenue extension, the road itself, same thing, grind it down and, pave over it. And then the handball court resurface and fence replacement.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then the southeast soccer field fence, needs replacement as well. And for those 4 items, it's $255,000.
That's it?
Now, the handball court resurface, that's B and G or that's you?
Oh, yeah, do that upper
I mean,
parking lot.
Well,
Ray.
it's under our jurisdiction, but we put in our work orders for something like that to, engineering and building and grounds.
Always-
So
we
you
sub that out.
you
They
sub
would
it
do
out?
that.
Sub that
But
out,
that
yeah.
comes out of B and G's budget, or that's out of Rec's budget?
That comes out of ours.
For the most part,
For the
yeah.
most part.
Unless it's a capital. If it's a
Building,
capital, then we'll
grounds
take it out of
maintenance.
park and rec.
So, but it's maintenance on the
Yeah, we-
recreation
Ground-
facilities?
grounds maintenance, yeah.
Okay.
And just to let you know what you was talking about, there's a path, there's a road that leads you up to the multipurpose fields. And that road, continues to have potholes every year. We
Oh,
fix it,
terrible.
Geo fixes it,
This is a parking
and
lot.
we have the PAL crew going up there, a lot of families going up there, and they just,
Might be a good project for one of our big new business people in town that I might ask if he wants to put his name on it.
sure, we'll name the road after him if he puts
No,
one
no,
in.
those,
That's what the extension is.
Friday night concert
It
series.
connects the parking lot to the PAL facility.
And is that the chunk that is $255?
It is $55,000
For the roadway?
for that extension, yeah.
The road and.
Just for the road, not the parking lot.
No, the parking lot is, I think it's like $80,000.
That's not bad, oh, I should say not bad, I thought it would be a lot more.
So it's total 130?
The total is $255
$255.
for everything. The soccer field fence is $15.
And I'm saying just the road and the parking lot.
Okay, so the road and the parking lot together are around $200,000.
Okay.
Yeah, because the handball court's only handball court is 60, and then the soccer field fence is 15.
Okay.
So it's almost 200.
I was gonna tell you, because that's about the only last part of Stotsky Park to be finished, is the upper lot and the roadway, and, I mean, it's, just a little bit of
To be
tweaking, and that
developed,
park will
yeah.
be completely done.
And this is just $255 all materials, or that's like,
No, that's in place.
Right.
that's in place?
That's in
Oh, there's
place.
more? We haven't got to page 5 yet, there's only 75 pages here, so.
Okay,
Alright, so this is just the playground area that we have right now, just showing that, we always have to keep upkeep with this, add mulch, and every year as it goes down and down, the new type of thing now, they have play and pour surface, that, just another costly thing that would make maintenance less and keep up with what's going on around.
Yeah, and that's actually like very dangerous. The mulch goes out and it leaves the surface there, and you could trip, fall, or hurt yourself. But we replace it, we replace the mulch, but after, when it rains and the kids playing on it, it all clears out, and then it still ends up looking like that.
well, how often does it have to be replaced?
Well, actually, Drew, B and G does that, every year, and.
Annually.
Yeah, they
So
replace
does it need to be done biannually? Will that,
Oh, annually, sometimes even
Yeah.
twice.
well, that's what I'm asking,
she's
so we're on a
asking.
schedule of,
Biannually or twice
right,
a
so
year.
we're on a
Yes,
schedule
all
of
right, I
annually,
understand.
does that need to change to twice a year? Would that be of any benefit?
It's on an as-needed basis.
Yeah.
If
So-
they need it, they send
It's
us
like
a
what the
work
weather
order.
holds for
Depends
us.
on
and the
Mother
volume.
Nature
So
washing
you
it
guys
out.
call and get it done?
Yes,
So it's done
put
more
it
than
on.
once a year usually, or?
If we need to.
Yeah, in the beginning of each year, B and G will go around and assess the playgrounds, and they'll put in all the mulch, but I know that's costly, because the guy had told me it's a high
Yeah,
number
it's
for
very
that.
costly. Like,
So, have we looked into resurfacing the whole play area for the
We'd
kids?
love to do that, but
Yes.
that's a very,
She
very
actually was
costly.
talking
What was
about
the other
the surface.
It's like
surface
a
you
pour
mentioned?
and play surface, if you have
What is it? Say it
Calverton
again.
pour and play, And it's like a rubberized surface, we have it at one of our parks too, Nadell has it,
Yeah.
and, Calverton, we have a smaller 2 to 4-year-old playground there that
Corn
has it.
Yeah, every new
It's like-
playground that we
it's
put
like you
in, we
pour it
try to
in.
put the
You
pour
pour
in
it
place
in
in with it.
stuff.
But just an example, if a
Like
playground
rubber.
costs 40,000, the pour in place costs about 40,000 as
Nadell.
well.
Is that that
So-
kind of bouncy surface?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's
it
great,
does feel
it's,
like
it's
that.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It's
Very
safe.
good.
And
Seen
how
it on
long does
other
the pour and
playgrounds.
play have a lifespan for?
10 years, right?
That, the jury's still out on that because it's relatively new, but I'm hearing from Brookhaven 12, 13 years, then it starts to, you would need maintenance at that point.
And-
That's on the old pour in place. They've since updated it. Every year they get better with it. But this was the original when Brookhaven put it down. They're saying 12, 13-year lifespan for that.
And how much does it cost to us to mulch them each year?
I don't know, I actually don't know what that cost is.
I think we have the
Easily
same,
find it.
right?
Thank
Are we
you.
using our mulch from our?
Melts, I'm sure,
Yeah,
just man hours.
From our yard waste
When-
facility?
Right.
when, if it's not clean, I know that we get it from, Barbados.
All right, so you get a number for that?
I will.
Thank you.
So similar to Vets, this is our south soccer field at Stotsky. So as you can see, that's not the fenced in one, and it's a lot of dirt. And there are requests to play on it, and it's just constantly destroyed because of overuse. And obviously, either we would fence it in to not be allowed on it as often, or switch over to synthetic turf that would
Dirt turf
create
is where we really want to go
more.
with it.
I mean, if you
It
really
has
wanna
to
get
be.
multi, you
Yeah.
can
The
really.
use
We're we're one of the few towns that doesn't have synthetic turf.
You really need to
Most
go.
of them do. Basically, it
Could have been
we-
done years ago, but you had a farmer on the board that wanted to
Yeah.
go with grass, and this is what
No,
you got,
no,
now you
no,
have dirt.
the
I
grass
begged them
field
to put
is good.
synthetic turf in back then.
Yeah, but it's, you don't get the
Grass
use, you
field's
never get your
horrible.
money back on that
Well,
grass field.
Okay.
That's a grass
hold on.
field as
We have
well.
all these conversations going on.
Well, let me
The
question.
grass field that's inside the fence with the drainage, that field is good.
It's okay.
It's not really.
Unfortunately,
no.
it's like-
Nah,
You
it's
gotta
And
go
I,
down
and I
to-
mentioned that years ago, that we only have one
It's the
true
biggest waste of money.
multi-purpose field in the town, and a very, very high demand. So we have to use the field that's good for the kids, and they constantly rip it up.
I'd love to get the YMCA and the Armory and go into collaboration with them to put some of the money into the improvements at
I'd like to
Stotsky
win the
Park.
lotto so I can pay for it, but.
So we have only one multi-purpose field but we have two others that are just not suitable for use.
Dilapidated, yeah. I mean, the south field, we've regrown the grass several times. It doesn't last even a half a season. The north field, we actually have to shut it down for periods of time
You rest it.
to redo it. This is in the middle of the season, where we got beat up with phone calls on that, but we have no other choice.
Is that the Door field?
Yeah, the
Yes.
north field.
The turf field, if done properly years ago, you wouldn't have had any of this issue, but nobody wanted to listen to it back then.
I thought the turf field
we
was
fought
like
very
over
hard
$1
for
million,
that.
and then the
Think
grass
about what
field
you've
with the
spent
drainage.
and what you've thrown out the window in maintenance and repairs
Oh,
here.
there's no doubt, there's
since
no
then.
doubt in my
It's-
mind
it's
that
ridiculous.
artificial turf would be the best up there. Firstly, you get almost year-round use, you're gonna, year-round rental, it's gonna be, it'll pay for itself in a matter of a couple
But
of years.
I think that's why we're going through all this stuff, because there's obviously a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and I think we need to prioritize them, as we move forward, so.
The high school put one in.
That's why I think we need
don't
to
have
figure
one.
out what's tier 1, tier 2, so we know where the repairs need to go for the biggest bang for the buck there, I guess.
I thought that when we put those grass fields in the north field, that there was a maintenance contract that came with that, where they were supposed to be maintaining that field.
That might have been for a year.
Yeah, it wasn't long at all.
North field is probably a year. Standard
Just
maintenance
check that,
contract.
because I
No,
thought that
it was,
there
I agree with you, but they came in the middle of that year and they had to resod the whole middle. This
Yeah.
is after a few months. So they did that, and then when the year was up, now Steve and his crew maintain it, but it's
just
a challenge. It's a challenge every year.
Annual or one-year maintenance contract, so it is.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
you wanna keep going?
Moving on to Bayberry, our police officers Memorial Park is located in Wading River. We have Helga here as well, she's one of our employees who helps take care of that out here.
Yeah, we can't function without Helga being there, trust me.
And one of the biggest problems there is our tennis court right now, and Helga will tell you that over and over, that she receives the complaints about it. But, it's again another maintenance issue of moss growing through it, and just constant upkeep of things that needs to be redone.
Is it cracked or the whole thing needs to be is it repair or the whole thing needs to be
No,
resurfaced?
it's growing from under.
There's tiles. We put tiles in the tennis courts to make the maintenance much easier about a decade ago. And so what's happening is underneath, all the grass and all the
Sediment, dirt, everything
Yeah,
gets
it's
down
popping
under
up on
there.
it,
and-
yeah.
So they just can't be lifted up,
So are they
We'd have to
usable at
rip
this?
them all up.
Are they usable, the courts, or no? One is.
Does that include the handball court too, or?
Yes.
I'm sorry, just one person. Would you like to just come up for a minute? Hi, Helga.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Helga's Park, so.
Yeah, I know.
So for, what was that?
The moss coming up in the courts, and I've called a few times. What I'm worried about, besides the fact that one court is unusable, is that somebody's gonna trip on it and really get hurt and sue the town. One, like I said, we have kept the one on the right-hand side, because friends of mine play, my husband and I play, and we've been taking care of that one, but we can't possibly,
But
we're
does-
getting older, we can't possibly do both.
The one you're using, that one also has crack?
It did have it, but, like I said, one of my friends brought in stuff that she had from home that killed moss and things like that, and she would put on it every time I was playing.
But can the cracks be resealed, just to
That
buy some time?
I don't know, you see, it's got black top underneath, and it has these plastic square tiles on top that are hooked into each other, I don't know.
They'd have to be ripped up.
Right.
The tiles would have to be brought up, yeah.
Now I get what the tiles are, I wasn't sure what they were, okay, they're individual tiles.
And
Right,
then-
but-
Yeah,
Square,
but the
Saskia Park.
surface underneath, the black top, I don't think was ever
Sealed,
straight, whatever you want to call it.
okay,
It did have divots in it before
Okay.
it even had that.
It's like the synthetic
But up
turf
until
of
this last year,
tennis
we've never, I mean, it's been years and years that that's been like that. We don't know why all of a sudden the moss died over there, it hadn't been there before.
have we had anybody, come out to look at how to prevent the moss from growing?
Our own B and G team, but again, in order to do, we have to rip it up.
But I mean, is there a way to, if the tiles are in place and you can play on it, is there anything that we can do to just alleviate the moss at this point, so that it's not unsafe to carry it through for the tennis season for the summer?
Okay, so the handball court needs to be replaced, period.
We
It's
just
shot.
fixed that too.
What's that?
You just fixed that not too long ago.
Yeah, that's $40,000.
What?
$40,000.
$40,000 for a handball court?
for a
Is
handball
it
court.
heavily used?
I would think.
At this
Up there
point,
it's
I
used-
would say no, it used to be.
Some of the
Right,
lacrosse
but it
kids
is
go
not
up and use
used
it as a wall.
Just because it's a change, people aren't playing handball so much?
I think the ones that used it or were familiar with it grew up,
You didn't see that on
anyway, and there are newer
Way back.
people, children, younger kids that come and had, on the, but they don't really play games like they used to,
Okay,
with scoring and all that.
I don't see the handball court, that's on here. So we can add that
it's on the next picture. Handball.
on
On this.
this.
Oh.
Well, at the time, when we did the report, we just redid the whole
Yeah.
thing. It was in great shape.
So, thank you. So my question is, the tiles with the killing the moss underneath, is there anything that we could do, or somebody we can come in to take a look, if there's something we can do to alleviate it for the tennis season for this year, so both courts can be used?
No, we've done this in the past, right, Ray? As far as getting rid of the moss for the season, then it
Yeah,
just comes
yeah.
right back.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like Helga was mentioning, we never had this problem before, it's only been the last couple of years, so, but we have done our best to kill it. Steve will go around with his stuff.
Yeah.
But
So
at
they
this
spray
point,
it,
it's
but
just,
it just
it's
But
cold
it-
growing back at a
To
rapid
do it
rate.
right,
Isn't
I mean,
Bayberry a real shaded, it's a shaded
Yes.
park,
Yeah,
right?
it is. My question is, can these plastic tiles, and they look nice, I've seen them on Sunski, can they be lifted, cleaned, and reused, or you have to get new tile? If the tiles, if it's just a matter of lifting the tiles up, getting them clean, and then resurfacing and putting plastic down, what do you gotta do, and then resetting those things?
I think that's
I
what
mean,
we're
it's
gonna
probably
attempt to
labor
do.
intensive, but it's probably not super.
I think some of those tiles become
Can
brittle
we-
because
That's
of
what
the
I was asking.
UV.
Can we let Helga
on
address
it,
it?
If we're gonna
and when
go
you
that
go to
far-
lift them, there's gonna be damp.
Why don't you come up?
Yeah,
so we
sorry,
can hear you, Helga. Come back up.
Come on up, Helga, she's an employee.
She should
I'm
be
just
up there.
curious.
She does a lot
If they
above
get
and
brittle,
beyond
yeah,
too.
but then, well, but come on.
Helga, you wanna have a seat?
Just replace the whole thing, it's really not worth doing that, cause it's so old.
Say that again?
Helga, come
I
sit.
would say that you.
Thank
Come
you.
on.
Is that?
How many years you been working for the
Really gonna
town,
make me
Helga?
nervous now.
Because some of them are dead, too.
Well, thank you for your work
40-something
up
years, I
there.
guess, it's been.
So,
People's breaking, which ones are dead.
We appreciate that.
so
What were you
can
saying?
can the second tennis court be used if there was no moss growing?
Absolutely, as far as I know, there's nothing else wrong with it. The
Okay.
tiles are fine.
So can we,
Catherine said it's
can we,
shaded. the
yeah,
moss
so
is
can we
gonna-
either kill them or find out if there is another way to have a more permanent solution for the season to kill
Sure.
them?
Yeah, we're gonna try to pull up the tiles. We, like Helga said, we replace tile by tile. We've done that before. We have a bunch of extra tiles that in our department. But we have never attempted to pull the whole thing up.
Well, before we attempt to pull the whole thing up, because we're getting into the season, let's see if we could just kill what's the vegetation that's growing up there that's making it unusable. Let's get through the season and then we can,
We
have
have
a
tried
better.
that. How many times?
We, just this last summer, they've been a few times and did it. Like, it goes away, but it comes right. It
But
comes
that's
right.
what I'm saying, let's see if Drew can find a longer solution for, instead of lasting 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, I know I
I'll ask-
keel the weeds in my house, sometimes I can get them gone for a week, sometimes I can get them gone for the whole summer, depends.
I hate to go back, I wanna go back to the shading, but has it grown up over it more? Have the branches grown? Could we trim back a little, get a little more light in there perhaps, so the
We
moss-
did trim back some
Does it
branches
go
a
so
year and a
that's
half,
so
2
much?
years ago.
I remember doing that too.
And the asphalt
that's a good
underneath
thing.
is probably splitting, which is making it,
Blacktop, yeah, and it's not, it wasn't absolutely
Flat,
level.
yeah.
So it has divots,
That's in a
which
wooded,
Yeah,
it's in a wooded area, as I remember. Well, just at my house, the branches grow over more.
The only thing that kills moss is sunlight.
All right, should we go on to next?
So more Bayberry, just what it
Stay
looks
with
like,
Bayberry.
parking lot, you got the basketball courts there and handballs beneath it, and just what the overall parking lot, again, can be redone.
The parking lot has been a challenge for us ever since pretty much I've been here. It's eroding into the park. You could probably explain it better.
$235,000.
Yeah.
How much?
It went up from 200 when we got, from when we originally assessed it.
Rick keeps giving us the bad news.
These parking lots are not cheap.
Yeah, it's just been patchwork for years.
Yeah, we Band-Aided, we resurfaced it.
Have you seen it? I had not to say, so I sit there and have my lunch when I was at 6:04.
So with the parking lots, obviously it's an issue at most of the parks, can we prioritize them, see what we can do, which ones, what the cost of them, what we can do as an interim basis, if we're gonna go do this out over several years to bring them up to speed, how we can do that so that they're safe, for the period of time until they can be completely, corrected.
I have 5-year plans for all these facilities, but we need the money though.
Right, but, so that's what I'm saying, if we have 5-year plans, but if you have your prioritize which ones are which in the 5-year plan.
Still gonna be a lot of money.
I understand that, but, but we may have to say, okay, this one's 235, we can do, $10,000 worth of fixes here for it to carry, cause this is number 6 on the list, and we start with number 1, that's the worst, and by the time we get number 6, at least it's safe till we get to that one.
Maybe we go right down the line, well, Edwards is gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Edwards yet.
But that's why I think you guys need to get together, make the list, and prioritize it, so we have a list that we're working off year after year after year, and it stays consistent.
We've done that, this is the 3rd or 4th year we have this list, so that's why we're coming again with the pictures.
Well, I understand that, but I'll tell you that like this, I find very confusing. I can't tell what's priority, what's not priority. I can't tell, when you come through with the budget, where the priority in the budget is for these items. It's very difficult, because I have the 215 list and the 218 list, and I can't tell what's,
There's not too
where the
much difference
priorities are,
between
so.
215 and 218, and we prioritized it based on, complaints that we get and what will, I guess,
But if I get complaints, there's no lights at the ball field, I know that in next year's budget and the year budget after that, unless something drastically changes with all of these parks having conditions that need to be addressed that are fairly significant, I know that lights are not my number 1. Unless, or the discussion comes, everything else gets put on hold and the lights become priority number 1. So that's the kind of information that I think is difficult to ascertain.
It is, because if you light the field, but the field's underwater, what good is lighting the field, you know what I mean? And this is part of the problem, and this has been a complaint, and we've discussed this, in terms of the water department, how budgets have not been, compensated for repairs that needed to be done over the years, and I'm not pointing the finger at you, because this happened a long, long time ago, and it's never been addressed properly where budgets compensate, have the money in them to do repairs on a 5-10 year plan. It seems like all of a sudden, $238,000 due to the parking lot, you know, well, where are we getting that from? Well, we don't have it.
Right.
But had this been planned on properly in budgets over the years, then there would have been a little bit of money put aside each year for the eventual $238,000 repair. And this is, I know Laura's, it's kind of a pet peeve of hers, and she's absolutely right, and I think we probably all agree about it. It just hasn't been done properly. So now we're faced with this without the funds to do it. So to chip away at $10,000 for a little piece of the parking lot, sure, fix it, $10,000, you get that. 5 years later, now it's like, well, that's starting to deteriorate now too. We don't have the money to fix it. We need to do these plans, we need to do the budgets where they have money built into them for repairs for down the road. We can't just wait for it to all happen and fall into a heap, and that's what's happened.
Well, we've been
And I'm off
asking,
my soapbox.
we've been asking for this since 2013 every year, so this has been around a long time.
Right,
But Tim, I agree.
but asking for it in one lump sum.
Right.
What I'm saying is it should be built into budgets
Right.
over the course of
If we
years
had
for
started in
maintenance
2013, it'd
into
be
the
done by
budgets.
now.
Yeah, well, engineering used to come in, and they used to tell us, you know what, we need to get the gazebo at George Young Community Center painted, we need to get this done, we need to get that done, and they would come in with a priority list. It's just, there was no long-term plan.
Yeah,
And I think it's
priority
a good
list and
idea.
being budgeted are two different things, though, that's the problem.
Right.
You can come
But
in
we-
with a priority
But
list
we
every
did
year.
have, we would get reports that said that this is what has to get done, this is how much it costs, this is what has to get, this is how much it costs. We should do this first before we do this, because it doesn't make sense to do that first. So,
Well, I think it's
Right,
important.
but it hasn't
still
been
do that.
budgeted, that's the
I
problem.
know you do,
Right.
and that's why I'm saying, that's what she's asking for. So I know you do those reports.
I just think it's important to, you know what it is, we've done a lot of capital improvements without capital expenditures is what we've done. And the lights, although that's a big expense, but that's also can be offsetted by a lot more revenue. But, so I mean, that's really not, to me, that's a wash, the lights.
One nice
Because you're gonna get a lot more revenue out of the fields having them lit at night. So those are all it's all a balancing act. But you're right, if you know you got $1 million worth of infrastructure that you gotta repair, and you wanna do it in 5 years, you gotta budget a couple $100,000 a year to be going to a maintenance fund. I get it.
Well, you also have to be able to figure out your costs over time. So if you
Right.
know you're doing this ball field and you're redoing the dirt on this ball field every year and it's costing you, you
Right.
know, whatever X amount of dollars, and in 5 years you could have fixed it, you know, you have to make a sound decision when you're doing it, but if you don't know the true cost of the maintenance, you're not making sound decisions moving forward, so.
I'm
Right.
gonna agree, I'm gonna
It's-
jump in, I'm
it's
gonna
having a
agree
tight-
with everybody.
It's having a tight budget, that's what it is.
Maintenance is not a surprise. Maintenance should be planned, but as far as prioritizing, obviously, we have to prioritize based on safety. I mean, there are things that we want, but we have to prioritize by safety.
We had to
I just
replace
wanna
the
say, we
playground that.
do that, we have a rec advisory committee, we go over all the parks, we prioritize them. Just keep in mind, this list it was originally a 5-year plan list, but since we don't have the money to get it done, it all compacts into where we are today. So I could do this again and prioritize it, put a 5-year plan on it, but we would need money just to start, to get it going.
But this is where I'm saying, it has to start, I mean, obviously, you know, to just come in and say, oh, we don't have any money, and on your priority list, phase 1, you have lights in the parking lot, you have new fence, you have clay in the ball fields, bathroom units, you know, and I see you have your off-season projects, phase 3 through 5, multi-purpose fields to be installed on the eastern portion of the park. That is good for that park, but then you have something similar like that in every single park. So as an overall department, I can't see where the priorities are for the department, because these are such big projects in every single one of these parks. So I don't know from the rec department, what's your priority number 1 for the rest of this year for what it is, because these are all such huge projects, and they're listed park by park as opposed to departmentally. So it makes it very hard to make any inroads of significance.
And it would be helpful to see what the projected revenue would be based on these capital improvements, so that could offset the cost, so that we know what the actual cost would be.
So
Ashley will get back to you.
as we go through it, and
do that, got you back, yeah.
It's got $1 million slides there already,
Hilda has
Ashley.
another question about
My
Bayberry.
Okay, go ahead.
You're talking about changing things, but, the main thing besides the, moss is really only half of the parking lot has a lot of divots and a lot of holes in it, which have been patched, but you know, that pops right back
Sure.
out, it doesn't stay. So if you have some money for it, maybe you could do just half of it, you know, near the front half, you know, where you come in the gate. The rest of it seems to be in better condition for now.
Can I ask, I agree with Catherine as far as, and we do that, whatever the emergency is, whatever's gonna cause an injury. But as a town board, how else do you want me to approach this? Because if you ask Helga, her park's priority. If you ask people in Jamesport, their park's priority. Ask people on the West End, Calverton's their priority. So it depends on who you ask. All these parks are a priority. What direction do you want me to go in?
Ray, this is where you're the department head, and this is where you make these decisions. You bring them back to us, we have a discussion, and then we figure out when it comes to be budget time. And that's where you say, okay, I've made these decisions based on, we have a limited pot, these are the parks that are most used. This is a park that I see up and coming, that people are going to use it. Or you say to yourself, you know what, we can pour tons of money into these little pocket parks, and we find that they're only being used for this person or that person. Or, and I had suggested to you also, some of these pocket parks, some of the neighborhoods have changed. They're no longer, you know, a neighborhood of all little children. And maybe some of the pocket parks don't need such big equipment, and they could go to bocce ball or some other thing that would then enhance the neighborhood that's there, that may not require as much funding in that particular park, that could go to another park that's, say, a neighborhood that has a lot of children in it. So it really is, you know, this is where the balance comes in of within the dollars that we have to spend, how to best utilize them to serve our community.
Well, I was going in the volume of parks. That's why I did it this way.
And
That's
I
what was
agree
my
with you. That's the way to
priority,
go.
is the biggest park with the most volume should get the attention. So I was doing it that way, and we did it by tier.
It's also, Laura, back to your point of improving a lot of these pocket parks where there may not be as many children, it's also buildings and grounds, loading up the equipment and going from park to park, and that staff hasn't increased. So it's a lot on these guys too in the summer, guys and gals in the summer, to pick up and go from park to park to make sure every park is maintained. So I think that's an excellent point, and I think that before we start putting a lot more money into some of the smaller pocket parks that may not be as utilized as other parks, that we start looking at, instead of replacing the equipment there, maybe pulling that equipment back and just fixing what's there that is being used.
For that, I would like to add, I think maybe the first word should be safety first.
Yes, absolutely, always.
Saying I'm
I
concerned
agree with
about
that.
parks
Well,
that
safety's
aren't
always done
used.
first.
If we're not putting money into these smaller parks that aren't used, I mean, I hate to say it, but can we keep them open? I mean, if they're not safe,
Right.
safety has to go first.
I think that's always a priority.
Yeah, we've done it that way, and I agree with that.
That's not even an open, that doesn't even.
Like, when you're an
warrant
EMT, you
discussion.
go for the person who's injured the most first.
But
So I
there's
do
there's
have-
a safety issue.
I
that's
do have a
dealt with every
long-term
year.
solution for, Bayberry. Helga's probably not gonna like it. But,
Close your ears, Helga.
Or just broader of the table.
It's permanent and it's cheap. Just
Mhm.
remove the trees around the, tennis court, cause that's what's causing the problem.
Well, at least trim them back or cut some.
We've tried that.
Get the-
We have, we've definitely trimmed them
Well,
back.
and the acorns that drop on it, where it's up there in the fall.
We're getting paid with it.
Exactly.
Leaf
them all out.
blowers and
Yeah.
everything else we use to
Take
get
all
rid
the
of them.
trees out, you wanna.
I don't
The
know.
little circles in the
I
tile,
really
it
like
just.
it.
Can't even minus 12 and pellet.
Okay,
I like the idea.
so
I
this,
mean, that's why the moss.
Great.
Courts would dry up faster, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
we
very
wouldn't
moist.
have the
outside.
acorns,
Moss
we
would
wouldn't
go
have the
away.
leaves, because, you know, we
Sunlight's
rake
a
the
big,
leaves
big
off and
deterrent for
everything.
moss.
so Ray, Drew, Helga, you guys can,
You know,
come
as
up
long
with
as
a
it
solution
still
for that?
looks nice, you know, I mean, I don't want the whole park empty, that would scare me.
No, this is just for the tennis
Yeah.
court.
Drew can tag them, and then you can go out and make sure that
All the
Doing
squirrels
a
can
good
go
job.
there.
Not every tree.
We'll go out
I'm
there
kidding.
together.
People need a
All
little
squirrels can go in your
shade
yard
when
for
they're
that.
playing, they don't wanna get too hot.
And we use, 300 yards of mulch every year, it's $11,000.
Okay. And that's for all the parks?
That's for all the parks.
Okay, page 9.
Okay,
That's
so we're
75
moving
pages.
down into like our other parks, this is Two
Jim,
Bears
do you have
Park.
somewhere to go?
And a lot of them, I think
Always.
with all the talk of the maintenance and the upkeep to keep
Thank
it
you,
in on
Heather,
that
for everything.
cost,
Thank you.
it's definitely good that we need to like fix these parks, but in the end of the presentation, as you'll see, some of the solutions that we possibly have could help eliminate constant maintenance. Such
Okay.
as the pour in place stuff, it'll just be there and it's done. We don't
Right.
need to constantly look at it all the time and fix it.
Yeah.
So, just to keep that in the back of your mind as we go through. This is Two Bears, it's in the middle of a neighborhood, and I believe people do go to it. Tennis court's cracked, basketball court needs to be repaved, the walking path, trees are growing through it.
There's been trees buckling underneath the walking path and it's starting to bubble up.
I don't even, where is that walking path in Two Bears? Is it between the tennis court and the park?
No, it's on the outer perimeter.
Cause there's two entrances to it, as the neighborhood wraps around, you
Yes.
can walk
Okay.
on that side of the tennis court or the other side of the tennis court. But
Okay.
this is closer to somebody's, yard.
Okay, so as soon as the plant's open, we're gonna have to do the little parking lot there and the walking path.
Okay.
That's what we have plans for.
Okay.
We have a
Okay.
PO for it, just waiting for Corazine to get in
You're
there,
gonna cut the roots out of there?
taking the roots out.
Okay.
So the proposal for that from, Corazini was less than what the general construction
You gotta
contract
live in
bids
the
came
park
in
to
at?
go play on that.
It was
You gotta live
off
in
of
the neighborhood
that,
to go play.
This is the park right by.
No, you can.
we-
Off the old.
There's a
off
little
the
park.
current,
Actually
off the current
complaining about how
contract.
hot it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's plenty.
Yeah, the other one hasn't gone through yet.
You can play.
Yeah, they,
I think we can
somehow
propose
it
the
has
new
some
state
kind of
contract,
benefit.
or the new,
is
All right, one conversation, everybody, this is too many conversations, so.
his contract doesn't expire until when?
I got
April 30th?
March 21st.
March 21st. So what I'm saying is Corazini's proposal of the old construction contract less than what our new construction contract will be March 21st?
He's got a PO for it already, though. I have not compared it, but he does have a PO.
Let him do it. He's already got paid.
I don't see us yanking the PO on him.
No,
Okay.
can't do that.
Are we on the next
Okay, we'll go
one?
to
When
page
was that money
11.
was encumbered?
Wait, I just wanted to
What's
say,
that?
I
When was
just
that
wanna
money
bring up
was
one thing on
encumbered?
the Two Bears.
Yeah, it is.
All right,
That's why we were talking down here.
okay,
A resident actually complained to me about the slide on the Two Bears playground, that you can't even use it in summer because it gets so hot.
It's just an older.
Is it a metal?
It's an
Not safe.
older metal slide, that's
Tell
just
them
how
to
they.
tell them to wear
I don't know if you
pants.
Yeah,
can put
when-
something over it?
When they made this, the playground,
You
that's
remember
just
when we were
how it was
younger, right?
built.
okay.
I used to bring a
Bring it
towel.
up.
So that's just a solution
That's why
to
you
the
bring your
poor
water with
applying
you. No,
constant
don't.
maintenance.
Tell them to put pants on. right?
Alright,
Okay, so, next,
moving on to
It
the
was a little
beaches,
kid, it
boat
was a
launch
child.
sites and pocket parks, so this is our smaller areas, except for the beaches are bigger, obviously.
so at the Corwell, how,
Corwell Avenue boat ramp, it's just
Oh,
a, you know, people can launch out their canoe or their kayak or something like that. Needs maintenance, needs new parking lot area paved.
No, there's no more boat ramp, not really.
is it currently paved, or is it,
It's,
is it
half
gravel?
dirt, half done.
How often is this used?
It's used regularly.
Like,
Well, mostly for
goes
kayaks
right
and.
onto the bay, yeah, not like big boats or anything
No.
like that, but
The
we
guy that
see
goes in
people
and
out
removes
there.
the alewives uses it, and
Okay.
the other fishermen that are removing the,
Not
fish out of it.
not heavily
use it.
used.
It's not heavily used.
No.
Okay.
That's why we
Well,
haven't really
the
maintained it.
community does, because people used to complain all the time about people parking
About
up
the
and down
parking,
Yeah,
Corwell
like,
Avenue
Complain
because
about
they,
the prostitutes down there, yes,
no,
that's,
they
that's
complain
what the
about
complaints
people
were.
parking
Is that where
on
you
the
set the
side of Corwell with
So
their
this is-
trailers and launching their kayaks and their canoes and their
Yeah.
small boats.
So this is just a fill-in, this is just general maintenance that you'll do on this one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Edwards Avenue, that's very highly used and a lot of community lives right down there.
Yeah, it's always a mess.
And yes, this is after, big
Storm.
storms, but just showing you the damage that we get there, from the storms, and the parking lot is a constant, it does need to be repaved, and it's kind of been, you know, our departments do the best that they can with what we have, and to patch it back together.
So these picture dates are not March 8th, 2018, obviously.
No, that's
No.
just,
But, because you did a lot of work down there, Drew, didn't you, with the riprap and the rock?
Yeah, Edwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, Actually put 2 loads down last summer,
Yeah.
and we're putting another load down now, it washes out.
It
in-
did
in a
wash
ma-
out?
In a matter
Yeah,
of weeks.
True, they have to
And
put
these are
drainage
3-inch
there,
stones.
because the water really runs down that hill onto there, that's the problem, it washes it
erosion.
out.
Well,
from the water.
it's what you're allowed to do in these areas also, because they're sensitive areas, there's a lot of stuff that you can't do, that's why you end up with the rocks and everything else. You can't pave, some of the areas.
So anyway, the parking lot would be $15,000, and, the boat ramp would be $45.
$45?
Yeah, $45.
$45.99.
I'll donate.
Okay.
And that's the same, the parking lot area of Edwards Avenue.
My God.
And again, B&G and Engineering Department, they've cleared a lot of stuff. But Hulse Landing, another place that you can launch your boat off of and needs repairs, cause again, the location does take a lot of beating, but
So this would be a perfect situation where you know that we're gonna have storms every year, you know there's gonna be a certain amount of repair every year, what's your yearly maintenance and repair on these areas for upkeep?
Iron Pier, one of our popular beach for us. That's the boat ramp on the left, and then we have the parking lot and the, pavilion area that's there.
Which is
Yeah,
beautiful, by the way.
pavilion's starting to age, so that's
know,
one of
it's-
a
it's
longer
nice,
range
right?
plan, but it's starting to age, we can see that now.
Do a lot of wedding centers.
Yeah, it's beautiful down there.
So what, I mean, I know there's the weather and everything else, but if that's starting to age, what, you know, incrementally each year, what are you doing to maintain it, and where is that in the budget?
Pavilion.
Engineering gets a budget based on all this every year. They're on the maintenance side.
So,
Not much, though. I don't
so,
think.
but what is the maintenance on this pavilion every single year? What is it that you're doing every year for the upkeep if it's deteriorating?
Probably, unless there's a serious problem, I don't think we've done anything since it's been in.
So that's what I'm saying, if 3 poles have to be replaced this year because they're deteriorating, then next year we replace 3 poles, so that in 4 years from now, we're not replacing the whole thing at a couple $100,000.
Okay, yeah, we
So-
look to do that.
Okay, that's a beach too, afterwards, and with the erosion, it's come up onto some of the areas that we, will have to remove some ramps and such, which will be a maintenance problem.
So the parking lot will be moved back after every storm.
Eventually, yes. We have Reeves Beach, and I know we had spoke about the bathrooms at other meetings, or we spoke about the bathrooms coming. Erosion again there, and then Drew can definitely touch base on the next pictures of the ramp, the 4x4 access ramp, 'cause I know that you had mentioned that with the redoing and the time that would need to take.
Okay, so the bathroom itself is circa 1980 or 85, and way out of code. If you're over 5 foot, you bump your head when you go in.
Yeah, think about when I go there.
Right, yeah, and it's very deteriorated, so that would cost, $125,000 to replace. We are doing the sanitary system replacement, which is also, 40 plus years old, and we're getting a grant for that to match. It's $80,000, so we have to match 40, which, we can come up with all but 25, and then we'll find an account to take that out of.
So, just a question on that, with the new sanitary system that's going in, you guys
Yeah.
are building an A-frame for the electric?
A-frame for the electric. All the
Yeah.
electric goes right in the module itself. These are
Well,
the
that's a problem, because it is an area that,
innovative alternative units that
yeah,
30 of them have gone in.
I know, but I'm being told by the contractors that put them in, that
Yeah.
they do a separate frame off the side of the building and away from any potential flood areas or erosion areas, and they put the electric on that frame so that it doesn't get damaged.
Are we contracting out for this, or
Part
are
of
you
the
guys
price.
doing this?
We got the price to have this installed, and that's part of the price that we got.
But the contract, we're contracting this out to be done,
We're gonna bid this out.
bid this out, so we'll put that in the bid,
That the electric has to
and
be.
then have them warranty it,
Yep.
Well, absolutely, yeah,
So-
absolutely it'll be in the bid.
yeah, and then they'll warranty it so that it can be addressed.
And then the boat ramp, again, we Band-Aid that 3 or 4 times a year. It's probably one of the worst boat ramps that there are, and again, that's that would be about $45,000 to replace it.
And a replacement on this, because of the way it has to be replaced, because of where it is, how long would that last?
Oh, an actual replacement?
Yeah.
30 years at least.
Get rid of the jetties, Shoreham Power Plant, that's causing all this problem, in my opinion, along the whole shoreline.
Yeah, well,
All right, that's a different discussion.
Experts say,
Yes.
Jim.
Okay,
Yeah.
South Jamesport
I don't
boat
believe
launch.
it's the whole truth.
Experts
It's
say.
just showing you the boat launch that we have there now, which is very, I used a lot, and, that eventually it will need repairs as the time goes on. So just again, an overview to show you guys what.
That's an awful lot of water in
So
the state boat.
is that in need, is that in need of any repairs right now?
Ray?
Some sinkholes.
Yeah, it's a lot of patching up.
On the ramp itself?
Yeah, it's not the best ramp.
Is it budgeted already for this year? Is it gonna be taken care of this year, or is?
We maintain every year, we fix what's the problem is. We took over this ramp from the state owned it, about 2 years ago, and with Councilman Hubbard, we came up with a plan to raise revenue by charging people to use the ramp, and it's brought in a pretty good amount of revenue, so we can use that revenue and put it right back into the boat ramp.
So that will be done this year, or that's for next year you're planning on doing that? Do you have that budgeted in for this year?
No, because basically it is, we're just gonna, unless we replace the whole thing, we just repair what needs to be done.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking, what needs, is there, how much repair needs to be done on it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, South Jamesport Boat Ramp, we've been asking since 2010 for this. It has approximately 750 linear feet at the end of its useful life of bulkhead. There are sinkholes in the parking lot and on the landward side causing safety and eroded sediment seeping into the creek. Bulkhead needs to be removed and replaced. New boardwalk behind the boat ramp, and in the parking lot, we're gonna put pervious pavers.
So if we only took this 2 years ago, how come there's this, why did we take it if we needed all this work on it? Bulkhead and stuff was not part of what we took?
We took this a long time ago. We took this.
From the state, a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Okay, so it wasn't 2
It's
years ago,
like
we took it from
25
the
The
state.
state owned it
25
with
years.
us. We got them off the, we now own it full
Why'd we
out.
take it with all these issues?
We got it 25 years ago, and it wasn't that bad.
Right, but this, Ray's saying the state still co-owned it up till 2 years ago.
2 or 3 years, but they didn't do anything with
Yeah,
it.
they did nothing. It was already.
They couldn't have been asked to maintain their ramp? Okay. Just a question. Okay.
Was it, well, you gotta look at the agreement, when they gave it to this town 25 years ago, and who was responsible for the maintenance of it?
I think they shared it, they
The
shared it.
town was?
Yeah.
And the
That was-
state,
That much I know.
participated in no maintenance of it.
That's what I
Just
thought.
for us to
Right.
charge anybody the same amount as residents. That's
Correct.
basically, so we were handicapped with that.
So now it certainly pays for us to have it for the revenue source.
All right, so the bulkhead needs to be done, what's the charge on all that stuff you just said?
4.9 million.
Oh.
Shut it down.
Drew keeps giving us the bad news.
And there is quite a bit of, stormwater work to do there as well, but that's all part of it.
And this is used this is used by not just town residents?
It's heavily used.
Yeah, I know,
Well, now we charge the, non-residents.
but it's
to use it.
okay. Okay,
So you got Wading River Beach, just what that looks like in the parking lot, and the maintenance has to be upkept with that. We just put in a new playground there. Again, this is after the winter, but we do need, maintenance on the beaches to make them look nice again before the beach season opens, which Buildings and Grounds and Engineering does a great job at doing it, but we do constantly would like to groom them, you know, over and over as we do our rocky beaches. And this is the boat ramp at Wading River, in the town plan. That's not in good condition at all.
Never is.
Hmm. Yeah, that's not even
Another
working
smaller
anymore.
park, Millbrook Gables, that could use a basketball court, and just some other maintenance stuff that we could purchase and use.
Yeah, these we could do in our budget.
You can?
how high, how,
Like the, replacement of the tables and stuff, yeah.
okay, but the basketball court is not in the budget, correct?
Right, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, no, it's not. We just put a new playground into that facility and a new swing set.
Yeah, we just put
So we
It
did
was
put
what,
some money
like
into it.
40,000 or something, right?
Yeah.
It's a heavily used park?
It's used by the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually take good care of it.
It would be nice to have a basketball court there.
Yeah, no, it's there, we just need to redo it.
So there is a basketball court, it doesn't need a basketball
Well,
court, it
yeah,
just
it
needs a
has
repair?
basketball court.
Yeah,
Oh,
it has
one.
one.
It needs to be redone.
Yeah, nothing extraordinary.
And how much is that, It's a resurfacing, or it needs new fences, what does it need?
Just the resurfacing, and we can do similar what we did at Horton Avenue, and that was about 13 grand, I believe, and it looked really nice with the new surfacing. So that's the goal for that.
Is that in your budget, have you budgeted for that already? this
No,
year?
not for Millbrook, because, like I said, we put a lot of money into it already, we gotta go now to another park. But down the road, we can definitely do it.
But the rec committee, which there's members from all of the communities that are on the rec committee, right? That address what the needs are of the parks in their communities, right?
Well, they
And
make
last year, I think it was with Millbrook Gables, it was the playground they wanted, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
So, yeah, we prioritize with the rec committee every year what we want to attack, and Millbrook
Right,
Gables was one of
right.
them last year.
And that rainy day.
Yes.
Unity Park's very similar, could be replaced with a four and play, basketball court needs a maintenance.
And how used is this?
Unity, neighborhood park,
Neighbor Park Walk, Doctor's Pit.
yeah.
How big is it? It's used?
It's used,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not really, it's not that big, but it's big enough with basketball. It's a half basketball court, we got a little playground in there, swing sets.
But a lot of like, young kids still there, that's what I'm
Yeah,
asking?
yeah.
Okay.
This is one of our community centers, just showing the outside, not the actual building. So this is
Yeah.
the playground that's currently there, we host a lot of camps there, and
We desperately need a playground. We have
Playground, what's
we
that,
have an
60?
estimate for it, yeah, I
Yeah.
know. We ripped out a lot of the stuff, we just didn't have the money, but we have an estimate for a new playground, and when we get enough in park and rec fees, that
What's
would
the
be the
estimate for
priority.
that playground?
It was about 40 grand.
Okay, now I heard like 7 priorities, now this is a priority now too. That's
Could
about,
I-
that's, you're about 1 million point something into your priorities here, so.
Well, for the people
It's
in
hard,
Jamesport,
So,
I-
and you know you're not get, you don't have that amount, so that's
What
what
were
I'm
you
saying,
gonna
make
say?
that list.
for the people in Jamesport though, the playground, it is like.
And it's a summer camp, which is heavily
Yeah.
used.
If you're older than like 6, it's hard to use the playground.
Yeah, I couldn't get out of that tractor when I sat in it.
Okay, so the
Yeah, we
building,
put everything online, and they were online, and now their
Maybe you're
turns come up. That's
Okay.
pretty much how we do it.
Okay,
back to the building.
yeah, the building we had it shown there, but
So the siding is shot on the building. And the HVAC system needs replacing. So the siding is 30 and the HVAC is 35.
And that's obviously.
is there anything that you just were gonna go past and you're gonna go, it's in good shape,
I have
just
plenty
need
of
to cut the
those.
grass this
There's plenty
year?
of
I have a whole
those.
list here.
Yeah, we have
of
a
completed.
The ones we fixed already. Yeah, it's not an easy presentation.
George,
What's,
Historical
what's
building,
first on
too.
there, HVAC or siding?
To go through. It's historical.
Probably HVAC.
How long's gonna the siding last still?
It's got, I mean,
3 more years?
yeah, we could probably get that out of it. It's gonna be falling off.
It's leaking now or no?
Not yet.
Well, we really need to look at income into the recreation department too, because years ago I had proposed what Brookhaven does, which is if you have a commercial shopping center that's within a certain proximity to a park, then there's rec fees that are associated with that. I mean, the condominium association that was built right next to, the Wedge in Mount Sinai, they paid $350,000. On the other side, they paid $350,000. Heritage Square paid close to $1 million, I think, and that's, you know, they get a lot of money into their recreation department. When apartments are being proposed and it's near a park, you know, there needs to be,
Or where there's no park?
right, there needs to be more consideration as to how to get money into the recreation fund, rather than trying to squeeze every penny out to try and meet all these priorities. And
Couldn't
it's
agree
been
with you
done.
more.
I have all the resolutions from
Good leader.
Brookhaven as to how they did it,
we have a
and
plan.
I presented it to the board a few years ago. Nobody was interested. They called it impact fees. I called it user fees, based on the shopping center or based on the apartments. So it's something that, I have the resolutions. I'll give them to you.
Thank you.
Because there's there aren't any subdivisions being built, and that's the only way we get money.
There's plenty of commercial, and there's plenty, I mean, the apartment buildings paid no rec fee when both of those were built. So it's definitely something that has to be addressed, because it's a benefit to the community to have these here for the whole community.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, that's a good lead-in, since we mentioned at the beginning that we wanted to show you ways that we
Do you wanna just finish we got 2 more pages left for
Oh, we
Ashley.
do? I
Yeah.
thought we were done.
We
No,
did
that's just Henry
Henry,
Ford, which is another community center, which,
North Fork Animal Welfare League has control over there,
Yeah,
a
we're not gonna
50-year
talk any
lease
money,
for.
Harry Potter. All right, next.
Sean, how do we bring in the revenue?
You have your stuff, Jordan? Handing it around?
What do you want me to
Oh,
say?
you
We'll go quick with this, because I know this has been taking a long time.
Youth travel board.
Give him, give him
I
everything.
guess I'll show after the video.
Give us everything, Jordan, don't mess around.
Big impact.
While you're passing out, I have to say, the visuals were good. Nice to have the picture.
Good impact,
Compliment you
right?
guys
And we
on
can
that.
send you this too, if you.
Take one and put them around.
Although,
I just
I'm
need one.
wondering what it
Judy
looks
is
like after the most recent storm.
Well, some of them are pretty recent.
Yeah, I haven't seen
After
pictures.
storms.
This, oh, please, we're gonna, just got one more.
Here you go, Teach.
Okay, go ahead.
We just wanted to, and I mentioned this to some of you separately. There's this youth travel boom that is going across the country at a rapid pace, and it's a perfect spot for us to look into because municipalities across the country are pouring money into facilities just to get these tournaments here. It's a $7 billion industry that's exploded over the last 5-10 years. These young athletes are traveling with their families to all these different places, and they're booming the economy into these places. So we just have the articles. We gave you 2 articles. We have about 20 articles, but these are 2 that we wanted to just show you. Just read when you can. We have a quick video, and then I have some statistics, and then we can call it a day.
I think this also plays into kind of what we had spoken to you about and we had presented the other day about an RFI.
Absolutely.
For
That's another
possibly
way,
doing
yep.
things, so I think that ties into this very well. I think that we had, the board had asked when you meet with the rec committee,
Yeah.
the RFI is not completed yet, but we would like you to, review it as well as the board, so that we're all on the same page to put that out. So
That's
I
another
think that
great way to
plays right
do it.
into this.
We were gonna try to present that today, we just weren't ready, we're gonna present the RFI, next week.
So this is a longer video, but I'm just gonna stop and start it in different spots, so you don't have to watch 15 minutes of the video, you can kinda get the idea.
Yeah, this is HBO Real Sports,
For you, I'm playing the whole.
and it
thing.
just came out last
Yeah.
month.
I guess it should have a speaker that connects to the iMessage. That I don't know. Oh, it's only on here. Where's our
Oh.
person?
It should be up at the top up here.
Cause I hear it on here.
There should be the volume up at the top corner.
Whoops, now I'm calling.
How's that?
Usually volume's up over here, maybe you can just go up. Oh, here.
I can vouch for spending money at hotels and meals and everything, with my son being in travel lacrosse and traveling all over the place to go to his games.
It's huge.
There's a lot of money pumped into the
Wish
community.
we did that when I was younger.
If you can't get it through, you can
What
just email it to me.
I know.
Let me see if
5
I can
times?
get it loud enough
On
on.
travel teams?
I wouldn't allow my kids to play travel teams.
Move it all the way up there.
Okay,
Will.
Because the money you spent on them was better put towards their college education, because
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have a little Mia Hamm or a Bend It Like Beckham guy, because they're the
Okay, here we
star,
go.
and the
Let's
money's totally wasted.
I gotta go
It's just, it's ridiculous, the
There's a
amount
lot
of
of
money
fun,
that's
though.
spent.
Parents' mentality now, though, is their kids gonna be a
I just
Can I
totally
go,
disagree
like,
with it.
all the way to the end?
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I know you wanted to see them.
You guys wanna see it again?
That's the way it should have been the first time.
But anyway,
I can
think
go over some of the stats while she's doing that.
great
Okay.
idea.
So this is the youth travel boom. I just put this together from several different publications. How much families are spending on an average. So this is on a national level. I also have a local level. So if you look, average spending, this is now all the families coming into your town, and this is how much they're spending. Average spending per non-local family attending a tournament is as follows. Accommodations, hotels, restaurants, meals, they get the groceries, concessions, fuel, sporting goods. So they're gonna go to all our shops, and they approximately spend on an average $985 per weekend, per family. And you're talking about some of these tournaments, which I'll introduce at the next page. You're talking about 70 teams will come in on a
This
weekend.
is Florida?
All over the country. I just get this particular The top is from University of Florida Online. These are all surveys that they've done. This is a different
Yeah,
part of
cause I
the
know
country.
Florida does it all year long, and it does it also during because of the weather. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just
I played in
curious,
Florida
like,
many years.
what the numbers are for like our, like baseball
Well,
heaven.
I'll show you the next page on the local, because we did both, because we
Okay.
can say it's good on the national, but is it gonna work on a local? Well, that's what we went to Brookhaven Baseball Heaven, to ask them questions as well.
And we went to a 3-day tournament at Stowe last summer.
Oh, that's nice of you.
And there were about 80 teams that were there. Everybody
Yep.
pays to be there, then the people that they're paying pay the town or whoever owns the facility.
Yep.
And that, they put the money right back into the facility for the next year.
Yeah.
And it's,
If you read the articles, you can see how, it's really worked in some of the poor
brings people there in the
towns.
summer.
So you could read the statistics, but if you go to the last page, youth sports impact locally. I use Brookhaven as a resource, Baseball Heaven, and a local organization that runs tournaments on Long Island. So in 2008, the town only had 50 baseball teams. The town of Brookhaven then increased the number of ball fields, new turf complexes. So right now, in their baseball league, this was 2013, they have even more than this, 150 teams a year. 2,300 players. They've expanded every year. Brookhaven Baseball hosts 2 tournaments in 2017, as we look back. So we have the spring tournament results. They had 61 teams come in at $800 per team. They did this from their department. The total revenue for the weekend, just from registration, was $48,000.
That's
The other
almost a
tournament,
handle
yeah, I
for it.
didn't have the stats for. USSSA Girls Fast Pitch, which is another boom industry. There's a lot of local teams that play in these tournaments. This is USSSA. They have run tournaments. It's a national organization, but we have a group that runs it on Long Island. They lease our fields too. These are the tournaments they held last year, and this is how many teams have come in. In April, 47 teams. They charged $473.
This was at baseball heaven.
No, this was actually, they leased our field, they leased Brookhaven Fields. They go to field. Baseball Heaven's separate. Baseball Heaven charges $1,000 a team, and they still sell out every time. So Memorial Day, they had 37 at 6:15. They had 3 June tournaments, 49, 34, and 53 teams, and the average range of $600 per team. So that's just what it's doing locally, and this is something I would love to jump on. We can do a few from the department, we can also lease out the fields. For the fact that we're on the East End, it's beautiful out here, and we can introduce people to everything that we offer here in Riverhead. We can offer discounts to downtown,
They have
restaurants.
But this,
if
we
they-
would
they
need
wanna-
lights.
Wine country to them.
Yeah,
Correct me if we would need lights.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
There would have to be $1 million investment into the lights to bring back whatever this total is
Yeah,
here.
and that's what they're doing, but we're hoping maybe next week's introduction can help us.
But there was
maybe
also
build it.
financing options for the lights.
I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, the
you know,
facilities would have to come
if you
first.
got, even if
Yeah.
you got a third of these teams coming in, what's that gonna pay towards the light of $1 million?
It'll pay
That's what
the-
I'm curious, over 20 years.
We figured it
Oh.
out years ago when we were looking at the lights and we were looking at financing the lights, that the annual cost for the lights would be recovered by the tournament play and by the rental of the fields. So it was a wash, essentially.
How
for-
long though?
We
It
currently
was-
bring in, without the lights at the fields, about 45 to 50,000 in revenue just from leasing the field itself. But a lot of the organizations have left us because they can't finish their tournaments at Calverton. which is no lights, yeah. So we would make a lot more money that way.
I think
But
the
just saying, we
payment-
are
I
raising
think the
money.
payment was about that, a year, to pay back the lights.
Yeah,
Might have
it
been
was something like that, yeah. And don't forget too, if we were to get these teams to come in, our concession would go through the roof. A lot of the organizations love to sponsor kids-type events. We can get the town involved in sponsoring us too, so we can generate a lot of income by doing this. It'll take work, but it's there. I just wanna say it is there, and it's a possibility.
But they're mostly outside teams, correct?
Their team, they're all over the place. They're local. They come from different states as well.
Yeah.
We
I'm
have a
just
lot
saying,
of
we had
local.
about $1 million worth of, you know, if you were to do something for $1 million, we have like about $1 million of parks and services that our community, our direct community uses too. We need to, we
I
need
know,
to be
but what-
mindful of that.
But what I'm saying is that it will be paid for the outside people coming in, and then our community can benefit from it for the rest of the time.
But that's what I'm just saying, that's what if Ray, with these numbers, is it just the money coming in just to pay for the lights for the outside teams to play on the, is it just paying for itself in that one spot? Or is it truly a revenue generator overall after, say, whatever, 10 years, 20 years out? That's
Well,
the
I mean,
question.
originally, it would depend on where you wanna direct the money, but I would direct it right back to the park itself. Continue to build it. This would be, Veterans would be the best park to run a tournament like this, even though we do run tournaments at Stotsky too. It's a beautiful facility, so, yeah, I mean, the money's not just for us, but it would be for the town as well. That's
Well,
how I look at it.
I guess, you know, I think the questions that we had today,
Mhm.
I'd like to see the answers to those priority-wise. I think the lights at the field is a separate revenue-generating conversation, which is separate and apart from
Yeah.
what it is that we talked about today. So, you know, I'd like to see some of the answers and
So
the
you
way
want me
this
to
fleshes out.
prioritize it based on what I feel is most important? Is that basically how you want me to do it?
You do your
Based
budget
on
for your department, correct? So your budget for your department is maintaining of the parks in our community.
Correct.
And there's issues in almost every single one of our parks in the
Correct.
community.
Our budget's
And-
been cut
and-
for the last 5 years.
Okay, Ray, but we're starting from this point here. There's
I know.
also been a lot of maintenance issues that weren't put into the budget every year, okay? So if you know what your what needs to be done, I mean, you know how to do this. You
Yeah.
make your Excel spreadsheet with everything that needs to be done, and you know what your budget is, you know what a realistic budget you can come back to the town with is. You know, let's just say your budget last year, put a 2% increase on that budget from last year, stay within the tax cap, and show me what the priorities, and the board, what the priorities are for the following year. You know, based on what you think it is, and then going out, including all the maintenance costs. At least we're starting from a place that we can work from.
We did break it down, how much money it would cost. We just didn't want to introduce all that today, because I
But
thought this
this-
was overwhelming enough.
But there's the yearly maintenance cost that needs to be done every year, there's the stuff that can be quick fixes that can be done, and then there's major projects that can be done. And they need to all be budgeted out in those separate and apart from each other. You can't say we need $3 million worth of stuff, and I need, you know, $10,000 to fit a pothole over here, and I need $1 million for light, and they're equal. Because you know that's not gonna fit in your budget.
But back to what Laura was saying earlier, with the 300 yards of mulch that we use at various parks throughout the town, if you can figure out how many yards we use for Stotsky Park for that play area, and then figure out what that would cost us carrying it out for 10 years versus just putting in the pour and play, that, you know, I think that's what we're looking at.
Absolutely, you gotta know what your yearly costs are based on maintaining our equipment. I mean, you have over at Iron Pier Beach, every year, you know that's wearing down the pavilion, you know you're gonna have to place a pole or two every year. So what's the cost of a pole or two? That's gotta be in there, and so you know what you're gonna have to do to maintain the facility in an effective manner over the years.
I think, is the video working or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you might just have to listen to off of this,
Alrighty.
computer, hopefully.
Ashley
Here.
can speak for this because she's like the
Yeah.
#1 US lacrosse player, coach, and everything
yeah?
else, travel player,
Ashley.
Ashley.
She's varsity coach.
And I think
Lacrosse.
like with some of the stuff we talked about, like Rick could really chime in on that, like PALs uses a lot of our facilities as far as the fields and everything, but they're forced to leave us and go to the school because we can't provide some of the stuff like that. And I don't know if Rick, if you have anything that you wanna include on that, but.
No, I know there's a big push towards travel now, and some of the numbers are a little bit down with what we see in like the PAL leagues or whatever, but we still have 600 plus kids playing soccer, football, and lacrosse that, the school is gracious enough to let us use their new turf field to play our games on, but during the week, we're scrambling to find practice fields. We're practicing at Phillips Avenue, Riley Avenue, all over the place, and they can't get out there now this time of year, obviously now because of the weather, so it puts them in kind of a bind. So there's definitely multi-purpose fields. We should have been on this years ago. We're way behind the 8 ball, as Ray said. There are really none in Riverhead other than what the school has. Every other town does have them. I think that's a good start. I don't know if it's at the Veterans Park or someplace more centrally located, but I think, with rentals, I'm just seeing, because I'm driving around on weekends working also, there are a lot of Spanish soccer leagues out there looking for places to play. They're busting through the fence up at the north field of Stotsky Park.
that why the fence needs to be replaced?
Probably.
So, I mean, I think now, I don't know, the lights and all that, it's a huge outlay of money, and I listened to, you know, all the repairs that need to get done here. Obviously, it would be something that'd have to be a long-term bond type thing, and hopefully paid off with revenue, down the line, but there's a need. There are definitely travel leagues, agility, my kids all played in it, I coach every sport that you can imagine, you see it out there, it's just a booming business right now. The only downside, and I don't know if you took this into account or not, is during the summer, these people come out here, they're not gonna be able to afford to stay at the hotels. So I don't know, that would be something you might have to look at a little bit. Because if they're traveling from other places, that's gonna be a part of it, maybe.
There was a plan for a big RV park right next to Veterans Memorial
I
Park.
think Brookhaven has more access to do it with some influx and
Wildwood.
or not, you know, priced out at $300 a night. Maybe you can make
That'd be
deals
a
with somebody, I don't know, maybe you see more hotels built. I have
Yeah,
no
don't
idea.
the tournaments usually get a special rate?
Yeah.
When we travel,
Yeah,
we
but
got a
I don't
special
know,
rate.
They're full here,
I don't
they'll
know if
charge
they would
top
go
dollar.
during the summer weekend in July when they get $300 a night for
Yeah, you're right.
versus,
That'd be a lot for a family,
Yeah, but there's plenty of properties
But
in the town of Riverhead where where
Right.
it's zoned where they could build hotels, and
Right at my
someone might
house,
build them
okay.
if they knew that we had all these teams that were coming.
But I think even though if you had lit fields, even local leagues would be playing in it. Yeah, I don't know that you have to rely on it. That might be something you do once or twice early in the spring or late, or in the fall.
Right.
When the room rates are a little
Yeah.
bit, you know, cheaper.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, if you have a going rate of $300 or $500 an hour, or whatever the rate is, right? To use a lit field, I think you'd have leagues willing to pay that, you know. From a selfish standpoint, I don't think we would charge our Riverhead youth to play up there, but, it would definitely be a huge benefit to what, you know, to what they're used to now. What they're used to now is horrible. That Northfield, that South Park that we talked about, I've been involved with the PAL stuff for a long time. I was in the rec department before I became a police officer. I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. It's horrible. That Northfield, when you can get on it, which is for a very short period of time, is in decent shape. For the most part, they're repairing it all the time. As Councilman Hubbard said, it should have been turfed way back in the day. It's nice, it's pristine looking, but it's locked up. They're breaking through the fence to get in it. So turf down the road, if we could do it, right? I'm all for it, and I think the youth would, I mean, Riverhead's still growing. You know, we're not one of those communities that are not. I think we still have a lot of families moving in there. There's gonna be a bigger demand down the road. And I think it could probably pay for itself, but that's their expertise.
RFI.
If I could just add what the lieutenant said, with the added space and more multipurpose fields, that the local organizations that utilize our parks, they wouldn't have to compete with each other, and they also could expand their programs.
And there's kids there to expand.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it's unfortunate because our kids are at such a disadvantage of other townships and other, you know, states that come here to play because they can't get out onto the lacrosse field until May. Cause there's snow on the ground in March. These kids from these other towns and from the other, you know, local, like, states, they've been playing on the turf field since February.
Yeah, there'll be more availability, they won't have to,
Well,
fight
that's-
over who's.
That's why I think a lot of these towns are doing these public-private partnerships for these fields, because they're very costly for the towns to do. And it is a good way to be able to provide locally what you want to be able to provide from a rec department and still not have the cost outlay. So hopefully that will, at least alleviate some of the issues.
Brookhaven bonded $28 million, I think it was, for all their parks and their fields and everything. $28 million. Imagine what we could do with that.
They are 8 times the size of us, but.
Yeah.
But still.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
every park they have turf now.
All right,
You go through any one
do
of them,
that?
there's leaks going on every night of the week.
All year round, yeah.
Like,
all right, ready for the video? See what we're missing?
Sorry it took so long.
She's not gonna get that to her.
Can you hear from here?
You need a Bluetooth speaker.
Okay, so this is gonna go into a family that's used to traveling around the nation and whatnot. I'm not gonna make you watch all of it, so I'll just move you ahead. If it will do that for me.
Everyone else is doing.
What?
Your kid's gonna fall behind.
How big a part of your life is this trip?
You know what, I think maybe
Thank
send, yeah,
Thank
just forward
you,
to
Amy.
go to everybody,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's,
So,
that's
thank you.
basically what's in the articles is
Okay.
what they're talking about up there.
Thank you all for the
Thank you
presentation.
for your
It's very
patience,
good.
guys, we're sorry it
Thank
took so
you.
long.
Nope,
Ray.
That's a lot of parks.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll email it out to you, but I do suggest you do watch the video. It basically
Break it
wraps
out.
it all up together where these towns, and they're very similar to ours, the downtown maybe got a little bit run down, but is on its way back up. And people are coming here now because we have these facilities, and it'll bring more money to the community.
Well, do you wanna send us the link?
Yeah, sure.
Yep,
I can
yep.
do that.
Just so you know, we have 5 guys that maintain Old Future So, take it take long.
I read
Well,
most
that's
of
what
it.
I'm saying, they're bouncing around all over the place. and
They do a great job, they really do.
equipment and
No, I
moving
know.
to another place and-
I mean, it's all scheduled and
All right, thanks
done
again, guys.
methodically, but
Thank you, Ray.
We haven't added any,
I know, I said.
we haven't added any buildings and
Have a good
grounds.
one.
I've
Thank you, Jeff.
had a couple that retired that we never
Yeah,
replaced.
right.
Thank
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Keep up the
Take
good
care.
work.
Good seeing you again.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Good job.
I'll tell Olivia you said hello.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing that we have on our agenda is just very quick. It's the Q and A, continuance and, format overview.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the next Q and A meeting will be on March 13th at 6 PM at Pulaski Street School. One of the things is that, it's not going to be live because we were not able to do the live to Channel 22,
Right.
but we will be streaming it on Facebook Live on the Riverhead Town. So it's on Facebook at Riverhead Town, and we are going to try and put a link, from our town website, if you wanna link through, but probably the best way to link through is just to go right on Facebook. So the schedule is, the presenters, we had forwarded the information to the presenters from the community's questions, and they will come and provide the answers to those questions at the beginning of the Q and A. The town board will then ask questions, and the presenters will answer them. I see that more as a back and forth dialogue as opposed to what we did with the community, so we'll ask them to come up. As we ask our questions, we will, ask a question and answer, ask a question, answer, will be the format for that. And at that point, if the time allows, we'll ask if there's anybody from the public that would like to ask more questions of the presenters. I don't know if there will be enough time at that point. If not, we will adjourn once again and continue to reschedule. It will be debate just based on, where we are at that point. So that's the plan, for this point. I know there was a question last time. We do, if people are coming to ask questions from the public, we're gonna ask them to fill out the cards once again. But just so the public knows, there is no limit, there's no cutoff, for the filling out the cards to come up and ask questions, during the presentation. I think last time somebody had thought maybe, you know, if you weren't here on time, that you couldn't get up to ask a question, and that's not the case at all, so.
Was everybody that filled out the card able to get up?
Yes, and then
Okay,
one,
the first one, yeah.
yeah, there was
Okay.
one person that I had called and they didn't hear me, so we had them come up, after they did.
Okay.
But yes, everyone who filled out a card, did get to ask a question.
And I would just like to say that I did attend the Chamber of Commerce last night, and there is additional information that they've asked me to provide to the board. I'll also provide it to the press if they're interested.
Who is that?
And they also have they had a lot of answers to the questions in a format that was presented by Steve Rogers, who is the gentleman that had done the air park in Utah, that he was on the phone from Paris, couldn't get a flight in. So I think that they would like to present that portion of it also, and Barbara Blass and I agreed that they should have presented that the first time, but there was some interesting information there.
They're open to present whatever they want, to
right.
ask their
I-
questions. They've been asked to submit more information, which we have not received, so, you know, at this point,
I
it's.
didn't get a copy of the video that they presented last night that I will forward to all the board members.
Okay,
All right,
hearing,
I think it's on Facebook too.
triple
On the
five,
chamber-
baby,
on the
triple
chamber
five, still
Facebook,
alive.
Isn't it?
The interview
Yeah.
was, but I don't know that you could really read the bullet points in the script.
copy of the PowerPoint.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
They
we
should have
like
presented that the
pictures,
first
man,
time, right?
pictures and renderings, very important.
They should have presented that the first time. Yes.
Yeah.
Was it?
Well, they weren't going into the lion's den.
so, Yeah, there was no, it was, yeah. So, can I have a first and a second to go into executive session for personnel justice court clerk, a discussion regarding a pending stipulation, contractual EPCAL attorney-client consultation, but Riverhead Volunteer Ambulance Company contractual provisions, and litigation, current litigation in the matter of Town of Riverhead versus Baiting Hollow Farms LLC, Baiting Hollow Farm Vineyard LLC, Steve L. Levine, Sharon R. Levine, and Richard Rubin, and a pending litigation in the matter of Oak Hills Association, Inc., and a litigation, the Town of Riverhead, Suffolk IDA, and Suffolk County Culinary Arts, Community College Culinary Arts.
I move that we go into executive session.
If I may add on to this, I'd also like to discuss confidentiality in executive session and executive session items that were discussed, because I know that there were some items that we had discussed in executive session and some viewpoints that I had put out that got back to the employee, and I got a lot of nasty texts and emails because two members of the town board,
Well, do you wanna
according,
do you wanna discuss it in executive
I
session, or
do.
do you wanna discuss it in public? Because right now,
Well-
you're discussing it in public, and then it becomes a public item agenda. So
Well-
you need to either say you wanna discuss it in executive session,
I
and
wanna
it's,
find out who went
So
out of
if-
executive session
do
and
you wanna
told
discuss
this
it,
employee.
do you wanna discuss it in an open session, or do you wanna discuss it at a
You have to
executive session?
ask for something on the
You have to-
executive session,
you
then
have
you
to
discuss
pick-
what
you
that
have
is.
to pick a choice. It's not- you can't do both.
Why can't I do both?
Because if you wanna discuss it, if you're asking
it's
to go into
either a matter
executive
of
session to
executive or it's
discuss
a matter
something.
of
Why
work.
can't I ask for an executive session item to be discussed as to information being given out to an employee? That's the topic that I'm discussing, not who said it, not
Okay, so
what
you'd like to-
employee it was. So yes, I wanna discuss it in executive session.
I vote no. Otherwise, I'm gonna tell everybody. I second the motion to go into executive.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I know
Executive
who did
session.
it.
Are the minutes done from the committee?
We have, they put them, I don't know, are they up now? What they are, they're an incom-